You remember playing it for me.
I was going to say, I thought, was it you too? I thought everybody was in the car.
It was me. I know for
Were
sure.
you not in the car?
I'd never
Yeah,
heard
it was
that
when we
song.
drove
It
up
was.
to your cabin.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And you guys are like, no, I've never heard it.
And
I'm
I
like,
really
oh, just hear it. And once you hear it, you'll know that you've heard it. None of you knew it.
That was a really good song.
I'm just a
Josh.
dirtbag baby.
A really good song.
Yeah, I liked it. It's got 90s vibes.
Dire
It's a
Straits.
2000 Wheatus.
Wheatus.
Dire Straits, like right there.
Wow.
No.
If you like Teenage Dirtbag, comment for Joe to shave his head. Okay.
Welcome to You Won't Hate It, where we talk about life through the lens of pastors at the length of a cigar. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.
I'm Joe. All right. What is going on today, boys? Boys?
This came up. This was a few days ago,
Oh, fun.
and I liked it a lot. What is it? How does it word?
It's what Guinness World Record would you like to hold?
Yeah.
Or want to
Oh, it's a
hold?
good opening
Of
start.
all the Guinness.
Oh, right out of Guinness.
So all the ones in the world. Here's the realization: anything is a world record now.
Oh, of course.
You can be like,
This is kind of like
as long as it hasn't been done.
yeah, I clucked like a chicken for the longest time anybody has, and it's ridiculous. They will do anything. So
Do you know your shoulders would be so on fire if you actually broke the Guinness Book of World
Your
Records?
wings.
do you think you could do it longer than me?
No.
Thank you.
No.
So I beat you in a record.
You're already. So
I just, in fact, just now I may have held the record.
That's right.
I
It's
may
the
have.
First Street Church chicken clucking
world record.
Honestly,
Right.
it's kind of fun. So we, as a church, which I still
By the way,
think we should
somebody
do.
has a job at the Guinness Book of World Records to determine,
Somebody or like 1,000 people
to
have
determine
records. Or
whether or
jobs.
not you actually break the Guinness Book. Like,
You have to have a
what are you doing
representative.
today? Well,
Yes,
today
somebody has to come
today I'm,
watch you, right?
That's what blows my mind. So there is a way to get a record without having an official there.
Oh.
But you have to pay extra to have the official on site, which is
Yeah.
usually like a media publicity stunt.
That's
to
actually
bring
how they
them.
get paid. Just so you know, they work for $9 an hour.
You might be right.
and they go
But
out.
we still have talked about, because we do a 100-person cakewalk on Halloween every year, or for our trunk or treat.
Oh, that's right.
Don't tell people what the record is. They'll do it before us.
We are
I
going to
remember
break
it.
those crazy high. So bottom line is, if we're going to break the cakewalk world record, what is an individual world record that you want to hold? And here's the great part again, because my first thought was, okay, let me look through them and find one. Then I went, you literally make one up.
Okay.
What would you like to be known for? It would be immortalized as your world
Most
record.
people saved.
Oh.
That's pretty cool.
Dude,
Oh.
how
That's
would,
like the most like
How do you verify
crappy.
that
yeah,
one?
yeah.
it'd be the best, because the whole time Jesus would be like, hello? I'm pretty sure that's been me, not you.
That's a heaven record.
Yeah. The Holy Spirit has that one.
That's right.
Heaven records would be funny.
Yeah, what would be the one? First of all, they're always stupid, right? I mean, usually when you find out about a
I mean, there's
Guinness,
some crazy cool ones.
some, but like jumping the most cars. I'm trying to think of something that you can wrap your mind. A lot of
So
ones I
holding
find-
your breath for the
ones I think I
longest
had
time is pretty
It's
shocking.
like a guy who holds a bunch of coins up on his elbow
No.
and he catches the most with his hand. It's always stupid stuff like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, 100%.
That was an
Those are the ones I always
Happy
think of.
Days.
How many can
Is
you
that actually a record?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I read that one.
The
as one
most
I used to read
coins-
those stupid
Okay,
books.
I imagine
From
once
your
it gets
elbow.
past like $5 worth of quarters, like it's you can't do it.
You can. I've actually done it with $413 in pennies.
It's
It's
good.
pretty surprising
But
to
you
watch.
still don't
He
hold
blew
the
his
record.
shoulder out, though.
And I don't. Yeah, I'm actually still.
Well, it's because all the
second place.
clicking.
Oh, I got mine.
because I got the clucking record too.
I got mine. World's highest jump. Mm-hmm. Want to be able to jump the highest on the planet. More
Yeah.
than anybody
You know, it's
else.
funny.
Those
It
are
comes down
good.
to something
Because I want to be able
physical.
to dunk.
No, I like it.
I just want to like be like.
That's what I'm saying. There are
Tomahawk
certain
dunk on
records
people.
that are so fun.
That's mine. That's mine. I want to do that.
Fastest punch.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
He already did it. You
Oh,
didn't
I
see
thought you
it.
were gonna-
I think broke my knuckles. Yeah, no, that's a good one. I actually like that one.
Well, have you seen it's really dumb that it's like
Fastest punch.
the most punches in a minute?
I don't like that one.
It's annoying.
Yeah, I don't. That one bugs the heck out of me.
It's like
small.
a guy holding up a plate and
Yeah.
another guy is going like,
because he's doing this.
It's Donnie Yen.
you're like, that's
It's
not
Donnie,
punching.
It's Donnie Yen and Ip Man. Whenever he does those little punches, I'm always like,
Yeah.
who are
Yeah, but
those?
There
are
is
from
the
the elbow.
one.
Those are from the elbow.
There is the one actually that is the full. I don't know how they call it, what they call it, but it's a fully extended where your elbow has to go straight. That's a whole separate record, which I was like, okay, I'm glad that's a real
I
record.
considered the world's like heaviest bench press or something like that, but I thought I don't want to be that guy. The jumping sounds fun.
I was probably thinking too realistic of like I couldn't do the no matter how much I trained, I couldn't have the most powerful punch. So I thought, like, maybe the fastest. It'd be
Well, I
better.
mean, it's you have anyone
Why
you
can't
want.
you have the most powerful
Yeah, it's the
punch?
game. You
I
can have
don't
those.
have
Did you see what's
mass
his name
behind me.
broke Francis Ngannou's record?
Who?
He's a small white guy, and everybody's like, we don't believe you. He does it off the same pad in the same gym with the same like science guys. And I can't remember
That's
his
what
name.
they're called too, by the way.
So,
Well, there's the sports science.
well, the sports science guys are just called science guys.
Science guys.
Yeah.
Like
Bill
the same,
Nye is a part of them.
Exactly. Yeah, Bill Nye's part of it.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievable because who hits harder than him?
So, Josh, if you could, would you take the hardest punch or the fastest punch?
I still like fastest.
Okay. Would you
Really?
do anything
I
with
prefer
that?
speed over
Would you
power.
do anything with that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Would you go into fighting?
people
Like
in
if
the
there's like
face.
if there's like a jerk like going off and like like in a bar, I just be like I just walk by and no one would see. They check
just-
the security
just
cameras. They don't
knocked
have the
out cold.
frame rate for
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
I like that you think because it's the world's fastest, it's like inhuman.
Like the
It's like,
Flash.
yeah, now it's in a different
Which
realm
only
of
saw
reality.
was you. No, you couldn't see.
Dude.
it.
You couldn't see me there like,
Dude.
dude, it was just kind of a quick punch. It wasn't.
nice fast punch, but yeah, we all watch
We
you
could
do
we
it.
could see it.
Mine would be like going to, because like I all of a sudden can't play in the NBA.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to parks and just dunking on people randomly. Just being like, you want to play pickup ball? Yeah!
But I
And
also
just,
like that-
hammering dunks on them.
But they're stealing the ball from you every two because you can't dribble. You can't
never
Throw
run.
me alley-oops. Throw me alley-oops all day long.
Get away from my 8-year-old son. He's learning.
That's it.
Exactly.
That's all I want to do. Just like this random like, goes, want to play some pickup ball? Yeah! And just hammer dunks.
Like no, now we don't want to.
Yeah.
All right, Floyd, what do you think?
I don't know. I would want to do something fun like
What's your dream?
most ice cream eaten. Or,
Wow. We all went very different
Yeah, that
directions.
seems fun to me. Like,
What about
really
best ice cream
fun.
flavor? Like you come up with the best, most popular.
That's
That's
not a record.
subjective.
That's not a record.
that does,
Isn't it?
that does
Most
feel
popular?
subjective.
No.
No, that's true. That wouldn't be recorded.
Most ice cream. Is
maybe
that a
something.
contest? Is there an ice cream eating
Oh, there
contest?
has
Have
to
you not
be.
seen that?
There's hot dogs.
Sponsored by
there's-
Lactaid?
Where your brain just lights on fire
Sponsored
and
by
freezes.
Death.
Can you imagine the
By
brain
diabetes.
freeze?
Like
How
it
much-
shrinks and
Just
falls out of your
curious. You could have picked any food. Do you like ice cream that much?
I like ice cream a lot, and I don't get to eat much of it.
I
Are
love
you
come
hungry?
on.
Are you
because
hungry right
because
now?
of the gout.
I love ice
It
cream.
messes with my
really?
gout. Yeah, so
Ice
I can't
cream,
eat large quantities.
never
of
too
ice
full
cream.
for it.
Oh,
he's
oh,
still
that's a
in the
bummer.
cracks.
Sorry, dude. That one sucks.
All the nooks and crannies.
I mean, I don't ever eat ice cream.
By the way, is that a new shirt?
It is a new shirt.
I like it.
Linen.
Looks good.
is that a Koofandy?
It is a Koofandy.
Heck yeah, Koofandy.
Sponsored by Koofandy.
Hey, look, if you're looking to sponsor a podcast, two of us on this show wear more of your crap. Floyd just got into it. I have like 19 of your shirts.
And this is my
Andy, I
second day in a row I'm wearing a Koofandy
Exactly.
shirt.
Just so we're clear, Andy and Koof both watch this show, so you guys got a good chance at
yeah,
it.
dude, they're actually,
That's well done.
I guarantee you
Is it
they do
Nordstrom's?
not watch this show. No, it's Amazon.
Amazon.
Dirt cheap Amazon shirts that are awesome. They fit
nice
super
to
well.
know.
They're
This is an
fantastic.
Amazon-
I'm just shocked that it's an eating contest. Like you're the I don't know. Is that weird? Am I wrong? It
No,
seems
I'm
weird.
shoct. I'm absolutely shocked.
I
Yeah,
never
yeah.
would have picked that.
That was
thought,
more
like,
than
like,
surprising.
Would you then
Fastest.
enter like eating like professional eating competitions that you could eat a lot of ice cream?
I don't think so. I think I just want to do it for fun. Like
Yeah.
just do it. I just.
But you
want-
still have to
How
go
many
through the
gallons
worst.
do you
do it
think?
once.
Just curious. How many gallons do you think you'd have to eat to get to win the world
Don't
record?
ruin ice
Oh, I
cream
don't.
for
It's
me.
got to be a huge amount.
Right. What do you think?
2 pints.
3 dipped cones.
I'd say probably like 4 to 5 gallons.
I would say it's got to be one of the 5-gallon.
because there's
buckets.
3
No
gallon tubs.
way.
gotta be.
Somebody look that up.
When I was in college,
Look that
I
up.
could eat a 3-gallon tub.
Yeah, but
in
that's a
one sitting.
speed. It's a speed thing too. It's not
Oh,
just.
that's true. I was
Oh,
like
no, I
watching
don't-
Star
I don't
Trek,
like-
just enjoying
He's doing
it.
in a
volume.
24-hour
He's going
period or something.
Oh,
I just wanna have fun.
Just
You
a
want
mass.
I don't want it to be
quantity.
work. I just want
So
to
you're
have
just sit on
fun.
the throne.
Just curious, have you ever done like an eating competition anywhere for any reason?
I'm sure, like in youth group, we probably did pie eating
Because it gets
contests or
unfun
something like
really
that.
fast.
I did.
I agree.
It
I-
gets unfun. Anytime you're doing like
They're terrible.
About halfway through, you're like, this is not
I volunteered for one at high school. It was a Red Robin chicken tenders, eating, and so
Oh,
they
yeah.
had like
Yeah.
200 boxes of chicken tenders. Well, there was a spot that someone was supposed to fill.
And you're like, I'm
And I'm
hungry.
on the field, and I was hungry.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't eat fast. So they were pissed off because
Did you
they
really
wanted
sit
me,
down and just
they're
eat?
like, all right, ready, eaters or whatever, and go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. I'm just eating.
just enjoying
I'm
the
just
meal.
enjoying
Not
it.
even close.
People were
to
so,
winning.
and the
think it's
crowd
great.
was so upset with me, and I'm just like,
That was in high
free-
school.
and then my friends were mad, and I had 2 boxes of free chicken to walk away with.
That's amazing. Did you go to
great.
Buchanan? Where'd you go? Yeah, Buchanan.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, there's a couple of really famous one guy who's pretty big time on YouTube. His channel's grown huge. He's in like really good shape, which is always surprising to me that if you eat that much.
Kobayashi was like,
No, I like it. Keep all the way down. We don't want you at our level anymore. I like you constantly.
Kobayashi was shocking.
There you go.
Yeah, no, he was legit. So this guy, and he's not big. You would never imagine that he's like, you know, a competitive eater. He travels around and does the, like, if a restaurant has you doing stuff. I'm trying to lock it now.
Like
that I
Colorado
saw it.
Grill or
The
something.
locking was, I'm like holding myself up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, just lock the chair.
Why is it back so far? Anyway,
It's actually.
and he eats. It is because I can eat a lot just as a normal person. I'm not like competitive
Normal
eating.
amount.
No, yeah, good point.
As a normal gorilla.
Right. Exactly. And then our buddy Mike Guidry is like, he can eat more than I can, and I'm always shocked
He's a
because
bigger gorilla.
He's the only. He really is one of the only guys I've known to actually eat more than me. So when we go out to eat, it's hilarious. But the competitive eater, the guys who do it, I'm like, it's inhuman. They bring a
looks so
plate
painful.
of food that's the size of the table, and I'm like, that's physically impossible. And then the next thing you know, and it's always towards the
water?
end. No, where they like are using the food like because they have to clean like eat it all, so they're like wiping it and then like and I'm always like it's so gross looking.
You watched it till the end? You
Every
watched
time
these?
I've watched probably 30 of them to the end.
I don't like
Yeah.
the dipping it in water either. Like the
No, it's the
even
worst.
the hot
But
dog
that's
contest
how
where
you
they dip it in
have to.
water.
It's dry. It's bread.
I get it. That's not. You wouldn't have to dip ice cream in water, buddy. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Ooh, or would you? What if that was your tactic? You take the ice cream and dip it.
You dip it in melted
and
ice
it
cream.
melts, and you just drink a little bit, and you're like, I ate the whole scoop. They're like, we freaking watched it melt. Nope, I did it. Leave me alone. Get out. I'm going with. I probably the strongest man in the world, but I want to choose my physique.
But
I
strongest
don't-
in what?
No. You're gross.
Are you saying strongest overall?
You know the strongman competitions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever qualifies you as the strongest man in the world, he wants that.
Those look so
But you
fun
wanna,
to me.
Do you want to look like one of them?
That he gets
a
to. He has
couple
to.
of them.
I mean,
do.
Brian Shaw. I wouldn't be mad about looking like Brian Shaw. He
would.
is a monster.
Brian Shaw's the American, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the big dude. Like
Yeah.
he's huge.
I want to be able to tie my
He's
shoes.
got a gut, I'm guessing.
Well, he's his wife is very short, so maybe she
Is
ties
he
the
the? Is he like he's like 6'8" or something? He's
6'8",
that guy.
6'8", and she's like
Okay.
5'4".
Yeah, I like him a lot actually.
It's kind of a normal average height for women. Yeah.
No, 5'4"
Nah,
seems
she
short.
might be shorter.
It's shorter, but it's not like she's like.
Steph's 5'3".
Truthfully, next to him, she actually does look.
she looks.
I'm just defending it
tiny.
because that's 3 inches shorter than me.
and because he's so
that's not
broad,
bad.
like he's so broad,
he's
and she's kind of
gargantuan.
petite. It just,
He is
it's weird
gargantuan.
looking.
How did they
Yeah.
meet? Like, did he accidentally
I like
step
it.
on her?
I don't know. Maybe
I would just love to. I always love the stuff like when they do the stupid things on YouTube where they're like, whoever can pick up this weight, and it's like huge dudes are coming and trying to do it, and then there's usually a guy that's kind of normal,
Yeah.
who just has the right technique or like, and honestly, just picks it up, and
Or
they're
he's a
always
rancher.
like,
Have you seen the grip
dude,
strength ones?
I just watched bodybuilders versus farmers.
Oh.
It was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, farmers win.
Farmers, it was neck and neck for a while because a lot of the competitions, you're like, it's like bench press. And you go, well, yeah, the bodybuilders
Farmers
are going
are
to be
like-
bench press. But then some
like
yoked out
gladiators.
farmer came up and was like, no, I'm fine. And he beat him in the bench press.
Wow.
But the tractor push, the bodybuilders won. So you're like,
I would have thought the
some of
farmer
it was endurance and speed where the lifters are going to win.
Yeah.
because how many times are farmers pushing tractors?
That's what,
They
yeah.
go get the other tractor and
100%.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
But
Yeah.
it really is the
That
farmers
farm
definitely.
strength
It's
is
a
interesting.
practical strength.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen it as. Is that it's
Country strong.
Or mountain
yeah.
strength.
They don't have
I
the strong.
We got mountain boy friends. You know, they're
What?
You have a mountain boyfriend?
something
That's what
different.
Is there
no,
mountain boy friends.
Do you want to tell us something? Because
There was definitely mountain boyfriends.
mountain boyfriends. You got mountain boyfriends.
That's
fine.
That's called Brokeback Mountain.
that's fine.
just so
We're not
clear.
we're not judgy. You're fine.
You know Jake
Josh?
Gyllenhaal?
It's fantastic. Yeah.
I really, I know I feel like I just can't quit this conversation, but maybe we move on to the rest of it.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like, but seriously, you want to eat ice cream
No.
as your skill? It's still shocking to
That
me.
is shocking.
That's the one that got me.
I thought, all the rest of us were like, he's like fast punch. He like to feel cool about it. You're like, I'll feel cool about lifting. I'm like, I'll feel cool about jumping. He's like, I'm gonna eat ice cream.
I'm going to eat a lot
Like
of ice
a
cream.
lot of ice
Listen,
cream.
It's so shocking.
I already feel cool. I just
Yeah.
want to do something fun.
That's no, you're good. The weird part is, you could just go get some ice cream,
It hurts me though.
but don't you take the pill?
I do. I take.
And you know
I
what
take,
I mean by the pill?
I take the pill. I do take the pill, and it's a magic pill. But there is something about the way that the protein and the sugar combine that's in ice cream. It messes with
The
me.
pill doesn't even matter with the ice
It
cream.
matters because I can eat a smaller
You could
quantity.
drink milk with it.
But
Let's keep saying the pill and see what Joe
Well,
does.
he's on the pill.
allopurinol, it's magic medicine.
It sounds
Do you take that every day?
I do every morning. Yeah.
Wow, that would suck to not be able to eat ice cream. I think
You know, what's funny?
All right,
I
just
probably
anything
don't need it
Do
anymore.
you take pills?
Claritin during this season, but that's
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
Is
just,
it pill?
Just during that. Anytime it's
different?
You don't take like a leather conditioner?
You don't take that. You wear it.
Oh, my bad.
that
I'm
is, that
sorry.
is topical.
I thought
It's
they had a
topical.
pill
It's
for it
topical.
now, though.
It's topical.
Yeah.
Always eating.
I can't say anything I want to say.
There's so many fun.
So many fun ones.
Yep.
I take Rogaine every day.
It's unfortunately just coming out in your face.
Again, isn't that a topical thing?
Oh, is that too? It's not a pill?
Because you're rubbing it on the wrong places.
Maybe
like a-
that's
it's like a
why. It's
foam.
because I've been
Isn't it like a
taking
foam?
it. Yeah, I've been drinking it, and so like it's really maybe that's what it is.
It's like a
just,
foam, isn't it?
I
Is it?
don't know.
You put
I mean,
like
look at me.
cream on your sundae.
Look at me. Does it look like I use Rogaine?
That's a good
Yes.
point.
All right.
It's,
You like you used it once.
What's one time?
I was gonna say no ice cream. Do you guys have any else have food allergies? I know that's not an allergy; it's because of gout. But does anybody else have a food allergy?
Not that I know of.
No.
And it doesn't like
great.
I can eat it, but just in very small quantities.
So, what is the worst food allergy? Just quickly, lactose intolerant, gluten intolerance. Which ones would just be really difficult? Dairy intolerance.
I think
nut,
dairy's
rice.
up there. Dairy's up there with me. To not
I think
have cheese or milk, I'm already like, ooh, that sounds hard on me. Because I eat so much cheese, it's crazy.
You know
I
what?
love cheese so much.
We made homemade French onion soup last night with.
You have to have the melted
with
mozzarella.
we had it with they didn't have Gruyere at the store, so I got the mozzarella Parmesan and pepper jack on
Did
top.
you do the toasted thing? The toasted
Oh,
little
the baguette.
Yeah, the baguette.
Oh,
yeah,
it was, dude. French onion soup takes like 2 hours. But anyway,
Oh, so
I
you
could
made
not
it.
imagine. Oh yeah,
You made it.
It was
made
amazing.
It from scratch.
We watched Ratatouille. It was just the whole night of food.
That's actually fun.
It was really
That's
great.
a good night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I could not imagine that without
you
cheese.
had a few.
I had
You
lactose
don't have them
intolerance.
anymore.
I don't have that anymore. I don't eat that much bread, but the thought that I couldn't eat bread would be pretty hard. Like
Well,
to not be able to eat pizza.
You're saying
or,
gluten free?
Yeah, like where it makes you sick.
So like,
Like
bread,
celiac.
pasta.
yeah.
Not being able
Did
to
not
eat
did not
pasta.
choose it. I don't know. I'm choosing it, but if I wanted to have some pizza, I'm like, yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah, you're
slice
choosing
pizza.
to have it, but you just had it the other night because you
Right.
wanted some.
'Cause
So
I
you're
want
like,
some.
yeah.
But if all of a sudden you're like, hey, we're having this amazing deep dish pizza, you want some? I'm like, I can't.
Right.
That's rough. Sorry,
That
Lisa.
would be
I know you
rough.
watch. Sorry.
Can
honey.
you?
I'm empathizing with you.
It does help that you're like, but I can just eat the top.
I think nut
Well, you
allergy.
can't.
I think a
because
nut
if
allergy.
it touches it,
Yeah.
It can't be that bad.
it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can't share the same.
Celiac is that bad.
Celiac
right?
Yeah.
is
Lisa
like that.
can't share
Yeah.
the same peanut butter jar with us because if those crumbs get in there, really
That's
make her
you know
sick.
what though, but that's what she says.
Right, I
I
know how
haven't
you feel
believed
about
her from the start.
I
I,
know
think
how-
at night she goes into the bedroom and has like a
Why is she in the
a
bedroom?
lag. Well, because you're downstairs watching
Okay,
a movie.
okay.
She's like, I'll be upstairs real quick. Yeah, she just has a big
that
loaf of French bread.
I think nut allergies.
That's what's happening.
I do love that. If her one chance to eat gluten is it's a loaf of French bread.
Because so many things.
Cake? No.
No, just
Mama's?
French bread.
No, it's French bread.
There are foods that have they're like, oh, this is packaged where they also process nuts, and it's like, well, I can't eat that because I may potentially die.
Did you hear? I'm going to bring things down real sharp right now.
It's good because we haven't really talked about anything yet.
No, there's a story that Ashley just told me about that because I had cracked a joke about somebody with like an allergy, and she's like, "Why are you weird about that?" And I was like, I said, "I'm totally kidding. I don't care. People have allergies. That's totally normal." But it was something like weak, like I said something like that, and she said some kids in a school, some kid had a peanut allergy, and the other kids were like teasing him, and they're like, "No, you don't. You're faking it. You're faking it." and they rubbed peanut butter in his face to be like, you're fine, and he died. And I'm like, what do you do?
What happens to those kids?
It's involuntary manslaughter, right?
Right.
I don't understand.
But
premeditated
they're
murder.
minors.
If they brought the peanuts with them to school, it's premeditated murder.
Peanut butter.
That's the thing, though. It kind of is. It's the scare. In my heart, obviously, it was just the saddest thing you've ever heard because you're like,
Especially if it's your kid. You're like, you just murdered my kid.
Because-
and I don't want your kid to go to jail for the rest of his life, but also
That's
I
the
do want
hard
your kid to go
part,
to jail
is
for
I'm
the rest
like,
of his life.
for teasing that is not that big a deal. Like
They're just
we
not
did that. We
believing.
had a buddy who hated mustard, and we squirted mustard in his mouth like one time. Like
He
we
also
grabbed him, and
died.
it's like,
He also
right.
died.
but that's the thing.
But he
like
hated
it wasn't
mustard.
an allergy. He just
Yeah.
didn't like it. He thought it was gross.
Yeah.
But I'm like, because I'm sure those, and I'm not sure of anything, but chances are those kids were kind of messing around
There's
like
no
that.
way they meant anything bad by it.
No, and it just was so frustrating. 'cause
Especially if it was like a genuinely one of their friend group.
Yeah, and
if
they
he's a kid they're bullying, different, right?
But they certainly
Exactly.
didn't mean for him
So
to
that's
die, even if
interesting.
they were bullying him.
No
Like, there's
chance
just
they
a
meant for him
huge
to die.
difference between being a bully and a
yes,
murderer.
exactly. So this brings up a good. This is a good segue. We're going to talk about something of meaning here at some point.
of substance.
What punishment do you want for people that do bad things?
Very specific. I like this.
Yeah.
Right on the
Death.
Right on the
Let's
nose.
try and figure out.
What
Because here's what I'm
things
trying to.
that aren't pleasant for those who do unpleasant things.
No,
is the thing
how'd you
you
not follow my
desire.
train of thought? It's that get that concept. Like, what punishment do you want for someone who wrongs you?
But, that's too broad. What are we
Situationally
talking about?
dependent.
Because
Okay.
if someone literally just
Right.
takes my food, I want them to be murdered.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so we're on the same page
Right.
with this
Start
one.
there very low.
Yeah. Okay, do we have to pick a specific
I think so.
Yeah.
crime?
If we want to have a
I
conversation
mean, it's
about
kind of
this.
how the law is based.
It's all
It's in
willy
degrees.
nilly up there.
They're just killing everybody for anything.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to give too specific because you're like,
All right, so someone rear ends your car, right? You had a fender bender.
No, hit and run. You gotta go a little more malicious.
Oh,
I like it. Oh,
Okay.
I like
Got a
it.
little more
Okay.
malicious.
I like it.
Hit
I've
and
had
run.
hit and run. Yeah.
Yeah, you've done a hit.
I got
and run.
away.
That's what you meant to say. Yeah.
I was gonna say, have you had a hit and run?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, on my old car. I walked out from the bistro and there's just a massive old dent in the right fender.
Oh
I
yeah,
go,
I've had one too.
No
I've had that one.
note.
I've never seen it. I've definitely had.
I have done it. I've like hit people and then I left my card. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like,
your old car with your wrong information.
Have you ever left the wrong number?
no,
I left the wrong number once.
shame.
It was before I met Jesus. What do you want from me? I think it's funny. This is funny to me.
Actually, it was right before. Jesus came up to him and was like, hey, you got to
Hey,
stop your ways.
That's not cool. Okay, other
that-
stuff's
It
fine.
was actually Jesus' car. He's like,
Yeah.
Wait, weren't you like basically born
I
in
suck.
church?
That's not your number.
Well, I guess
I was gonna leave that
No,
alone.
no.
Not gonna
I've
talk about that?
I've known of the Lord my entire life. I didn't get saved till my senior year in high school.
So it was,
And even then, there
it
were a
was
couple
after you were
years.
interning as a youth intern, and before. No, okay.
No,
moving
it
on.
was. I was not working at the church yet. Maybe I was. No, I'm just kidding.
So what is the punishment? Well, so for hit and run.
Hit and run.
By the way, I went to Westwoods with our buddy Pat, where and he was working with the men's ministry. And we go to Westwoods, we come out, and on our car, on his truck,
Note.
it said a note, and it said, "Hey, pastor, if you're gonna hit our car, at least leave a note." And so at the time it was on Fox, so we thought somebody saw him on TV. And I'm like, he's like, I didn't hit anybody's car because I was with him. Like, I don't remember you hitting the car. Anyways, years go by. We're in small group, and our friends Jessica and Kit go, by the way, we are the ones that left the note.
That's pretty funny.
We had just attended the church for the first time,
That's kind of funny.
and then we're like, and Pat bumped our car, but apparently he didn't know with his big truck. So
oh, he
Oh, he
really
did?
did.
she
bump
said they
their
said
car.
he's like he hit our car.
Oh, man.
And so like he obviously I was with him.
There's no way he knew because he would have done. He
Actually,
did-
I met him there. I wasn't with him, but yeah, he's like
That's
I didn't-
hilarious.
Yeah, he totally would have. He doesn't
he
care.
doesn't care.
But that was just kind of funny for that confession and to come out in our small group.
That's
By the way,
hilarious.
that was us all those years ago. I can't believe they came back to church after that.
Well, not only that, I can't believe you didn't
Why
actually
just
say
call
something.
him? Why are you waiting that much time?
Somebody who hit my car and then parked it, I would assume they didn't know they hit me.
Yeah.
Because
They didn't run away.
truthfully,
Of course.
If you knew you hit me, you're out. Like you are running, fleeing the scene. So I would actually approach them and be like, "Hey,
or
did
you
you
talk
know
to
you
them.
hit me?"
How
a
did
good
they know
person.
that he was the? I mean, how did he know that he did it?
I don't remember.
That's the
This
weird
was
part.
long enough ago. This
Were they
isn't
sitting
a
in the
Tesla
car?
where they had cameras on.
Yeah, so they wouldn't have
No.
had
And if you're
cameras.
sitting in the car, get out of the car and go, "Hey, man, you hit
Yeah,
my
there's
Or
car."
if you
no
see it, like go up to him like, hey man.
He was a big guy. Pat was a big dude. Maybe he's intimidating.
Yeah.
He was probably wearing his Lakers tank top.
No, at the time
too.
they knew he was part of the church, so they weren't intimidated. He was wearing a tank top. You know
Yeah,
that.
he always
least
wears a tank top.
intimidating.
I love that guy.
All right, what's the punishment?
What's the punishment? Hit and run. Because here's my thought. If the punishment is simply okay, they got caught, now pay for the damages and you're fine.
That's already a given.
That's the
a
given
given.
though. The running part shouldn't the punishment be more severe than that? Which I think legally it probably is. I'm just
Well,
wondering.
you have to pay for like emotional damages or inconvenience of time, right? You know what I mean? Like, because I had to go get my car fixed.
I can't. I need more emotional damage.
How many hit and runs get caught?
That's
We're
interesting.
never answering
Like,
this
I
question.
think number
Now,
one.
now
they
that
get caught.
Teslas have cameras, a lot.
All right.
I was shocked at how many, because there's 20 new videos a day of somebody doing a hit and run, either to the Tesla, which is always
Or
funny,
near it.
or it's near it and they pick it up. So I'm always like, oh man.
Well, if you're driving a car that isn't that technologically advanced.
Okay,
But there
feel
was
like
one
we're
in the parking lot.
I feel like this is, since there's already punishment for this one. Somebody slaps your kid. We need to go with something that doesn't like.
Let's go with something that's not technically illegal. I think slapping
Right.
a kid is still illegal.
Bad news for me.
Uh-oh. Oh, I might be in trouble then.
But that one's gonna be hard. Like they can slap your kid, get away, you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like
First
that
I
was a
didn't know
little
they were
easier
my
to kind of. Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah, something more like that. You're at the park. Somebody slaps your kid and they run off. Like what's the punishment?
Wait, what if they don't even run off? Like it's like them
Now what?
disciplining your kid. Like your kid was being loud and pushed their
Ooh.
kid down the slide. Their kid's all sensitive about it.
Yeah.
And then
This is fun.
That parent comes up, slaps your kid, and says, "Hey, you don't push people down slides."
Yeah.
Now remember, this is what you want to do, not what you.
No,
would
this is
ask.
the situation I want.
No,
Yeah,
that
this is
is
getting
What's the
me
going
riled up.
punishment? What's the punishment for this?
What's
that
the
you want?
punishment that you do think
Lord's like,
is,
how do you want me to punish them?
Yeah, is correct in that situation?
My kid gets to slap them
Correct?
back.
The adult?
That's
Yeah.
a straight up eye for an eye.
Yeah, my kid gets to slap them back. They sit there
hard
and
enough.
I don't know. I've taught
kidding
Shepard.
me?
I've taught Shepard and Eli some. I think they could wing back and get it.
Never
I think
like-
they could.
Yeah.
Shepard's hands are friggin' my size now. At 12, he's a
Dude,
monster.
yesterday, I was like, I told her, I even said, I'm like, dude, you got to stop growing. You're getting too tall.
Yeah,
Like,
his-
he's-
I think I'd walk up on that person and be like, I forgive you. No, that's not what we're doing. I thought I wasn't sure.
I'd
but
walk
would
up on
you?
him, but I wouldn't say that.
I'm gonna mute your mic.
Yes. Well, this was supposed to be an exercise in what do you want it to be?
Yeah, it's weird. That's a weird one because
It is because I don't want to be. I don't.
But there
want
is
to be
no.
Is it an adult or another kid?
Oh, it's an adult. It seems like super out of place. Where you're like,
Yeah.
what the heck?
There is no punishment that actually fits that because you're like, okay, I get to slap you.
You struck my kid.
And I know like eye for an eye, Old Testament can make sense, even though it was New Testament too. But I'm also like that. It doesn't really work. It doesn't.
It's the problem is revenge doesn't. It's not
Exactly.
satisfying.
No.
It's not like
It's not
you
satisfying to
slap,
do
so
revenge.
I get to slap.
You're saying if
There's
someone
something
slaps your
missing.
kid, and you're like, I get to slap your kid now.
I wouldn't want to though because I'm not.
It makes
that
me more
person.
sad to slap the kid.
No, I don't want to slap. What? I'm not slapping the kid.
That breaks
Who
my
should
heart.
Slap the kid,
Oh
Josh.
my gosh!
Okay,
Why was Josh?
Okay, congruence doesn't work in that situation. That's true.
Bring your grandma here. Bring your grandma to the playground. I will slap your grandma. Where's she at? That's what I'm gonna do.
You know what? And since you know my kid's a little younger than yours, I also get to kick your dog. Like you have to balance it out.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have to somehow make this even.
Okay, I don't even know.
That wasn't
It's
what I
nothing.
wanted.
This did not work.
It was
at all.
supposed to work. It did not work. We have a great first topic though that I
Part
do
of it is
want to get
because
to.
we are pastors. We have empathy. Like it's hard to be like,
We do.
what?
Yeah.
Like,
You would. And what's funny is I'm sure I would flip out. Yeah. But I really would be like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Oh,
They're
I,
like,
I
well,
had to remove myself.
your
from the
kid
park
did this.
once.
I'd be like, did you really?
Yeah.
What happened?
We were. It wasn't even the adult. We were playing in a park in Wisconsin, and it was like a grandfather with his kid, and I was with Jake.
Grandfathers are adults too, by the way.
Yeah, no. I mean, the person who did the slapping wasn't the adult. And so, anyways, and this kid, Jake,
Oh, I
goes
remember
on
you
the slide,
told
and
me
this
this,
kid just slaps Jake across the face, and I was like, whoa. And the grandpa's like, yeah.
It
That
happens.
that was what got me. The kids slapping another kid.
Sure.
And I was just like, hey man, and I'm like, Jake, we need to leave right now because I'm gonna go to jail. Because I'm gonna beat down this old man for not disciplining his kid. That was what I was mad about. Not like, no, this is now where you say, hey, don't slap other kids. Like that simple. I wasn't even looking for a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny, Ashley and I talk about all the time because kids will be. I went through this process, which I think is hysterical, that before I had kids, I was super judgmental about parenting. And I'm
now
like,
you're
you
more
do it
judgmental.
this way. And then I had kids, and I'm like, super empathetic with everyone. I get how hard this is. Now that my kids are a little older, I'm kind of judgy again because I'm like, but you should do something. So, like, when kids are screaming in a restaurant, I have a ton of empathy because I'm like, I get it. Sometimes kids have meltdowns, and there's nothing you can do except for getting up and walking out with your kid.
Yeah.
It's
I feel
weird
the same
to
on an
me.
airplane.
Airplane's the same way.
There's a door back there.
Here's a parachute.
But it's weird. And with our church, like, we let kids be loud. We don't have a problem with it.
Adults
but there
too.
are exactly. Adults are worse than the kids. There are many times where I go, like, at some point, though, take your kid out of the room.
And they do a good job. Most people self-correct.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't. And I mean in public. And so there's
Oh, yeah,
this,
but
like,
I'm saying
yeah.
church, they do
Oh,
it.
no, our church is good. It's the weirdest thing where you go, like, it. And that's where I'm like, I have empathy, but at the same time, it's like, do something.
Yeah.
Like, the situation isn't out of control. I understand how stressful it is to hear your own kid crying.
Yeah.
But I also am like, that's rough on other people too.
Yeah.
Why do you just, I don't like that vibe that some parents have where it's like well, kids cry. And I'm like,
That is tough. 'cause
yeah,
it's-
but not right now.
that's probably how the kid is acting up at home too. And they're
Exactly.
probably desperate to hear the message or be in worship.
Oh, he's talking about in a
Especially
restaurant.
in a
now.
restaurant.
He shipped
oh,
in a
yeah, no,
restaurant.
restaurant or airplane's another good example. Restaurant,
I know.
grocery
I was just
store.
thinking, like, if it was in church and that happens, it's like, yeah, that's tough. That's a tough place to be.
Well, we don't want to stifle his ability to express himself.
And it's funny because I'm like,
He's screaming.
sure.
I like that voice.
The kid, yeah. I mean,
that actually was-
I've heard excuses like that.
close
Like,
to Mr.
we don't,
Rogers.
we let him cry because we let him scream because that's the only way he can express himself, and we don't want to stifle.
Well, and
that.
here's what's interesting. I'm actually, if that's your stance, I'm okay with that.
Just take them outside.
But in a
Take him
public
home.
place that's especially like crowded with people,
Sure. Yeah.
why not walk out? Like, fine, let your kid cry.
That
But
would-
does it have to be in my ear?
That would be
Like,
the
why
benefit
can't it be
of the
way
live
over
stream.
there?
Like, if it's like, okay, I got to leave church, I'll just pop the live stream on. That's the benefit I would see with that.
Totally. And my thought is, you don't even, it might be something where you pop on the live stream in your car or in the parking lot, like with your phone,
Or the sensory room.
or in the sensory room, where it's like, yeah, because I get it. Sometimes kids, dude, when your kid's teething,
And
There- what are you gonna do?
Nothing
really,
you
There's
can
nothing you can
really
do.
the argument everybody's making is like, can you parent while being thoughtful to other people?
Absolutely.
That's the simple concept.
well,
right?
because and this is just my opinion, I actually think that's how you teach your kid respect in general. Because you're like, hey, as you get older, you learn more and more that there are other people in the world that you
We're a
have to pay
society.
attention to.
We're
We're
a
a part of
civilization.
a group of people.
So your previous question was when another parent isn't doing that.
Don't try and find his previous question. I don't remember.
Was I asking a question? I
No,
don't even remember.
No. What's our first story?
Hey guys, if you weren't a pastor,
We got lost on this
would
one.
you slap? Would you go to church?
I like that Josh wanted to slap their kid. That's his spirit. All right,
still
he's
the best.
slapping the kid.
Get over here.
Floyd's like, can't right now. I'm eating ice cream.
We're too busy.
If you weren't a pastor, why would you go to church? Why did you go to church before you were a pastor? Or why do you think people go to church today?
This is
Those are
fun.
three very big questions.
Well, it is, especially when you marked all the way back of why did you go to church before you were a pastor?
Because I had to.
Well, we all also had periods in our life where we weren't pastors and we didn't go to
I
church.
go to church.
Yep.
Why didn't you
Right?
put that question in there?
Well, no, it's
That's part of it.
a new question, Josh.
All right. Would you
This is,
slap?
and this, by the way, this is based on an article where someone was like, "Why do I go to church?"
Which had
Which is
actually
really
really
interesting.
good. The article's great. Has a lot of great reasons of why they go to church, why people should. But
From the top, what are the questions
Yeah.
again, so we remember what we're answering?
Let's do first question.
Yeah.
First question. Why would you go to church if you weren't a pastor?
Okay.
Like right now, today. This is us.
So you lose your job. Foreshadowing. That's next week.
I mean, you slept everybody else's kids.
You slap a lot of kids, you're going to
losing
lose your job. And
It's not
there
mine.
is a point, honestly, if you're on staff at a church, don't eat that much ice cream, you're going to get fired.
Yeah,
There's also
there's
that.
a lot of things.
So
Oh.
And bragging that you can jump higher than everyone else is also going to get people are just going to get tired
at some
of it.
point, people are going to
There's
get mad.
Pastor
with the
It's
fastest
going to get old. Yeah.
Not useful. Not useful.
It'd be fun to watch the two of you at the same time, or all four of us. He's just shoveling ice cream in his face. You're just quickly punching in the air. Joe's jumping. I'm lifting crap that shouldn't be able to. It's just ridiculous. It's a big freak show.
That's great.
Okay, so you're not a pastor. Why do you still go to church?
Yeah. Why would you personally? Like, why would you go to church if you weren't a pastor right now? What do you guys think?
Josh, what are you feeling?
When I'm outside community, I easily isolate.
Yeah.
So, and that's not healthy for me mentally or spiritually. That's how in the season that I was away from church, because I was living life, self-will run riot, as we call it. So, and it would also,
Who's the we that call it that? as we
people
call it?
in recovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is a recovery thing.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, me neither.
Self-will run riot. There's a chapter about being
Self-will
a tornado.
Run riot.
It's self-will run riot.
Or swerve.
Yeah.
That's
Swerve.
That's swerve is what. Swerve. Self will run riot.
That's actually a good one. Self-will run riot.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good saying.
Okay. How about you, Floyd?
Yeah, the last time that I was out of church for a long period of time,
So great.
I did not
you say?
have.
That also wasn't the question.
So freeing.
Well, no, I'm saying this leads to the question. I didn't have the same experience that like you guys did, where you were able to maintain your relationship with God well.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I pushed the church away, and because and maybe it would be different now, but because my identity was so tied to my position at the church,
I would hope it would be different.
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, you're not the same guy.
I'm not the
But
same guy.
why? So his was community. Mm-hmm. What would, healthy or unhealthy, why? What's a reason for you to go to church outside community because it's already been taken? You can't repeat the answer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
It's a one-time deal.
A lot of kids.
because
we
I
all say community now.
because I get goofy, and after an extended well done, and after too long being away from church, I begin to push God away as well, or at least I did last time. And I don't know that it would be that way this time,
Yeah.
but I'm also not willing to run the risk to find out.
So you think, and again, this isn't, I'm not, anyway.
Yeah, you are, because you're an 8, and we get it. Go ahead.
You think that if you stopped working at a church, that you would push God away?
Not working
You're
at a church
afraid to.
necessarily,
Attending, you said.
but
You stopped attending one.
attending a church. If I stopped
Oh.
attending a church.
Okay.
And
This is
I
asking
don't know that I would at this stage
That's
of my
even worse.
life.
I doubt it.
I can't imagine that
think
I
you
would at
would.
this stage of my life, but Josh already took community.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you already have it. You got SoulCon. You got your family. It's you already have that.
Yeah.
Outside of church.
Yeah. So this is where we also tell you you're fired. So you're about to experience this whole podcast has been set up.
Yeah, for the last 2 years, actually. We came to this decision 2 years ago.
Yes.
So excited.
It's taking a while.
crazy part.
I'm so excited.
It's taken a long time.
You slapped
You're so
Ryan's
free.
kid.
Yeah, there's a line
It's all
somewhere.
coming back here.
What do you think?
I know we already said, but I love the idea of community. I really do. I like church community, different vibes. I
Already
love live
taken.
worshp.
There you go. That's a new one.
Love live worship. I really do. And actually even just
But do you love all live worship?
no, I don't. And even preaching, like even though like I just like the energy of like being in a place where like something's happening, somebody's preaching, somebody's singing. Like I dig that. Like when people would go to like live sporting events or live music events, I enjoy the live event at church. I think it's pretty cool. I also love serving. Like I just even if I wasn't working for a church.
About taking mine because you had one. You can only do one.
No, you can't say it. No, you gotta
I
find a
can't.
different-
No, I gotta
you
find a new
no,
one.
it's a-
Yeah.
That's my problem.
because there really is something like it is an easy way to plug in and be like, I don't want to just attend a church.
Yeah.
I want to contribute. So if I'm like, no, you can't get a job, and I'm like, I'd still serve. I'm like, what can I do?
So here's the tough part. Every one of those things can be done outside of church.
Yep.
For sure.
There's a
Are you trying to get us to
secular?
leave?
Well, no, I think it's important to think through these things for any Christian, especially one who's devoted to going to church or one who has left the church.
Yeah.
Why do we what is really the purpose? If we really lay this
Well, yeah,
out,
we weren't going purpose, but yes, you're saying why would I go?
there are secular churches that are popping up.
Right.
4 episodes ago.
But yeah, right, that we talked about.
Yeah.
That people are going to church.
Yeah,
a
that's the-
non-religious church.
What you're really asking is why invest in those areas, right? We just said things that you could do everywhere. Just said why that. And it really goes back to the idea of, which I think is kind of the unspoken for, we weren't arguing that the importance of church, but why we would go. It's the kingdom investment. Like, I'm investing in something that's changing people's eternity. So for me, that's why that specific place. Like, if I can serve at the coffee bar, at church, and give somebody a good experience, and so they can connect with God, that's 100% why I'm in.
I'd like to serve at the coffee bar.
There's something unique about the where two or more are gathered concept, and that's different. As much as I tried to pretend for years that it wasn't different, there is something different about the organization of a church.
I met you not going to church.
Did you? Is that when we met?
Yep.
Yeah.
You were like, because at First Baptist, you were working for Christians in Action.
That's right.
And I go, where to go to church? You're like, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you should come to our church. You're like, no, I don't.
I'm good.
I don't go to church.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. And I think for years I argued that like I can get everything that you say the church offers. I can get on my own. I have really great friends. I could have a Bible study at my house. I study the scripture. I'm close to God.
I can listen to sermons online.
Listen to worship online. Listen to worship and sermons. And I don't need to make that distinction of it being live. Like, I had told myself all those things.
How often do you listen to worship?
Actually, pretty often now.
Really?
Yeah, that's a change in the last month, probably.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a brand new thing.
That's fun.
I also, some songs are like Mumford and Sons, where it's like, but they're totally worshipful.
There's a musical taste to it.
Yeah,
it's like, this is too bubblegummy pop to me. And then there's other ones where like, oh, this has got
not. And it's funny because not all worship songs are that worshipful to me, and not all.
No, I agree.
Again, the secular sacred thing with me. I was just like, to me, I can listen to a lot of stuff and have it be worshipful.
It's taste in music.
Yeah. So that shift of when I think I realized, like, I still believe you can get all those things outside of church.
Sure.
But I would argue from experience, anecdotally, you are getting a much lesser version of those things.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized is I'm like, that sermon I heard online, which here's the crazy part. Like, I was listening to the best guys in the world, and I'm like, that's a better sermon than the one of this church that I went to. But that sermon that I heard online, quality-wise, is better. But this one that I heard live actually spoke to me because I think God gave that pastor the message for this congregation.
Yep.
And it's like, that's super unique.
And then you open in what you said, the two or more gathered. So you're a part of that.
Yeah, man. That, like, the Spirit moving, while I think the Spirit moves all the time, there is something so unique and special and different about actually being in a congregation that you're like, I already know this place is flawed. These people are broken. They're not perfect. They might have screwed up theology. Some of their doctrine is off in my opinion. Like, all that stuff. And I go, and it's still better to have the discipline of getting up in the morning, like getting dressed, going to church, and opening yourself up to even just being kind to people and receiving kindness from people. It's rare.
We had the conversation yesterday in the Forge devotional that because you can do all those things. We're just studying the Bible together. We're just going through a book on spiritual disciplines and studying the Bible together
for a church group.
But doing that we could all do that at home, but doing that together and having the engagement
for a solid year and a half,
right? True.
Yeah, and I would love to find somebody who said that year and a half was better.
Well, I was going to say it's interesting that there are probably people who the Lord found them in that time.
Oh, for sure.
And judge them.
Then
I don't think you can stop the Holy Spirit.
But then there's the more.
Yeah.
I think the important part about that keeps popping up is in His name. Two or more gathered in His name. Depends who I have community with that will feed me spiritually.
It's good.
That's the important part, and I think that's why why for me community was the important part at first, because, and I used to be staunch on it. I used to be because of my upbringing. It was like you have to surround yourself with only Christian friends.
Yeah.
And then over time, and because of the path that I've been in the past few years,
those Christian friends realized you were a bad influence.
Yeah,
That's
I was, but it's not. Like something we mentioned a few episodes ago, we're talking about like our identities, and Floyd was talking about his identity in Christ. And you were saying, oh, so you found it. So you're there. He goes, no, it's a process. I'm still seeking it. Same thing with Forged. They're studying. It's not like they're studied.
Right.
Like I only gather people who are in His name and know it and feel it, completely.
for
So I think part of that is it isn't like I have to gather with people who are religious or are always in the Word and know everything. It's like it'd be nice to be just with people who are seeking more.
Yeah, so seeking, I do think, is beautiful. And I think most likely, a good congregation of people have that vibe. Even if it's like, no, they're super mature Christians, they've known the Lord for a long time. I think for most people that I meet, that the older they get, the more they open themselves up to, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand, so I'm still seeking. They can learn from, our church being multi-generational is super fun because it's older people learning from younger people learning from older people. And I think there's something really profound about that.
Yeah.
I do think the key, though, you're right. In Jesus' name is an interesting, I think I lied to myself for a long time. And that being like, no, I went to lunch with all these Christian friends and we had some great conversation and we even talked about God. That's like church for me. I hear people all the time say like, the golf course is my church. This is my church.
Or
and
even
I'm
holy
always like,
smoke, even the Bible study.
Holy smoke.
It's not, yep, that's the way to do it.
Holy smoke's a great example. Like,
And we tell them all the time, it's not church.
it's not.
First of all, it's only for men.
Exactly.
That alone is like, that's not
Exactly.
church.
You don't think it is ecclesia of the Holy Smoke? think
No, I don't think so, because the idea behind church is literally it's a representation of who's going to be in heaven. And so if you're limiting it to gender, you're already like, you can't bring your kids there, you can't bring your wife there.
Yeah.
Like it's.
I
not
think
the-
you can argue that it's like
It's like a subcategory of church for sure.
it's a parachurch organization. I think you could argue it's a Bible study.
It's a ministry.
Yeah.
A ministry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's called Holy Smoke Bible Study.
I'm trying to think. I was trying to make it a church. I don't know if you can. Again, for the only reason, because I don't think you need music. They don't.
No.
We don't do worship. So, but it's like I
We're
don't
going to
think
be
you
doing
need
worship
that.
for a long time. So
Yeah, I don't think you need
think
that. But I think the minute you
Inclusivity.
segregate
Yeah.
it all,
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
I
church.
think the
I didn't think about
missional element of like a subculture in a community is also very interesting. Like you go there and you're like, whoa, we're focused on Jesus and we want to minister to this. Whatever, every congregation you go into has this like interesting subculture.
Yeah, you're right. That's
that has
cool.
kind of like, and that's, you're kind of almost finding like a missional focus when you go visit churches. Like, these are my people. They're talking about the things I want to do.
Right.
It's a really interesting
Outreach.
where you get to be a part of something that I also think is very interesting. I think all of us want to be a part of something. And I do think there is, when you find that right church, like, okay, I'm not embarrassed of this, which sounds funny.
No, that's
You know,
real.
like, I'm not embarrassed of this, what they're going after, how they talk about Jesus, how they talk about the world, how they talk about politics, all those things. Like, that really resonates with me, and I want to be a part of it.
I wonder how many people are embarrassed to go to our church.
I wonder if there's a few.
There's got to be a few.
The older we get, not that you're as old as me, but the older we get, the younger, that divide.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, when people have like their 16-year-olds sit in a congregation, I wonder if they think, I want to invite a friend to this.
We've
had that.
We have way more young people in our church than I think we probably should.
one of them got
Like,
the logo
That
tattooed.
I know.
in the congregation
that
and
sit
not
in
youth
our
group.
service. Yeah, they don't go like that's awesome to me.
Yeah.
And I do think also the older we get, the more normal we get.
Yeah.
We're not as goofy.
Sure.
We're not as it's because it really is like you just get to a place of I just want to teach the word.
It used to be worse.
Yeah, I think it did.
But there is the
think it did.
references. I do think, too, the older we get, the gap between the references. Like when I first went into ministry, like I could actually, what I was going through in my 30s wasn't that far off from what kids were experiencing in their teens.
But don't they? What is it? 10 years
yeah, it's something like that. You
left and
start to-
right. You can pretty much.
Yeah,
get
because
to-
I'm like,
yeah.
even if we're saying things that we'll just say 16-year-olds, know about. It's not that they don't know about it.
Yeah.
But if they were up there preaching to other 16-year-olds,
Yeah.
their reference points would be so much different.
And also a big difference that I notice all the time is if I say something to a 16-year-old that's exactly what they would say, it sounds way different coming
Yeah.
from a 45-year-old.
Yes.
Like, because I remember that. I remember older people trying to use lingo that we would use. Like if
Are
you're
you on
using
the
verbiage,
TikTok?
Yeah, you're like, yeah, Jesus loves you, no cap.
and it doesn't work. Like it genuinely like
We realize they don't really know what they're talking about. Me too. So if I were to reference where you watch more YouTube, but if I was just be like, oh, you mean like this YouTuber, and they'd be like, you just saying that name because you saw
Exact-
it. Like,
there's
'cause it
there is a
like
disconnect.
you don't.
Yeah.
If you want to get me like this YouTuber, you would have said X, Y, Z.
Right. You would have quoted.
You'd have
them.
known you're an insider on
Right,
it.
yeah.
And
right.
we remember that as a kid when people say like,
Yeah.
they're like, they say, I'm like, well, you know.
It's kind of like
You just
Mandalorian.
heard
Like
us.
this is the way. Like if you say this is the way, people like and they say
get it.
Yeah.
like
Right.
Jesus' way. Like what do you mean? Like,
Right.
Oh, you.
That's I actually think that is it's probably the thing we do best is that we don't try. I never try to
No, that's
talk
a great.
to that
That's, no, that's
60-year-old.
on
great at
every.
that.
That's literally our church vision.
Yeah.
We don't try.
Zero effort.
Zero effort.
Zero effort.
I
That's
was-
actually another good podcast.
When I was preaching at the
Zero effort's a great podcast.
when I was preaching at Brock Harbor yesterday, I talked about going to college and having a VHS in my
What's a
little
VHS?
TV, my
Yeah.
13-inch TV, and I realized I'm like, there's a lot. I go, it's like Netflix but not. That's what VHS is.
Did you say that?
Yes, like it's like Netflix but not.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think I think that's the key to life, though, is just be totally authentic, be yourself, like pretenses aside.
Yeah, and
I don't
because I don't know that people care as much if they understand every reference as they do about you being genuinely who you are.
And about you preaching the word.
And
Because that's
yeah.
if you just teach the word, like you didn't have any clever references.
Yep.
Right.
That's
It's
how
And
funny,
your
there's-
heart's right. And you're like, I love, and here's what I know about God's word. I mean,
Here's how it can
our
help you.
culture, our
Love.
culture does put a lot of emphasis on preaching.
Think about the gifts of the Spirit. You don't have to be like generationally relevant to be able to teach love, joy, peace.
Absolutely.
Like people are like, no, I
Kindness,
relate
goodness,
to.
faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control.
Yes.
I just feel like that list
I said
always-
that for you.
I feel like that
I
list
know you
always
like
has to
Self-control
be.
being key.
Yeah.
Notice self-control is last.
Yeah.
For a good reason.
Best
Yeah.
for last.
What's the
that
what's the second question on this thing? forgot.
Second question here is, why did you go to church before you were a pastor?
Okay.
Why and when? Expand on it.
I think we didn't. We kind of mentioned like we went as kids. I went as a kid, and then I went from being a teenager to being in ministry.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I left ministry,
Same.
I left church.
Same here.
I did this. Yeah, I did the same thing. Really, where it's like my time not going to church was when I wasn't vocationally involved in a church, and even working in a church when I did for a long time, I still didn't think it was that important. It was a fun job for me.
Yeah.
I loved it. I felt called to it, but I don't think I would have been able to articulate well back then why people should go. And I would say it's not till probably 2-ish years ago, which sounds terrible, but 2-ish years ago is probably when I went, this is way more important than I've ever given it credit for. I just think the local expression, a body of believers, I think for a while I was doing a lot of things out of rote memorization and necessity, and it was just, this is what you do. I was brought up this way. I see the benefits, but I also, whatever, they're not that big. And I would say it was a couple years ago that I went, wait a minute. I think our society is in trouble without the local church. And I mean like bad, horrific. I think we go down a terrible path as a society. Even if you're an atheist,
Right.
you should be fighting for the local church to stay in existence because it staves off some things within a society that you need protection from. And I think the local church is our best defense.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that
it's
COVID
huge.
influenced that for you, like the inability
Yes.
to get together
I actually
for
do.
a year and a half?
I think that's one of the.
Yeah, I think that was a big because I
miss it.
I was goofy with COVID. I loved that time of not really being able to leave my house. I love my house. I had all these projects. I worked a lot. We'd wake up and we'd meet together on Zoom and talk, and it was like, well, now there's nothing else to do because you can't do anything. You can't meet with people, which is the primarily main part of our job. And so
Part of our life.
I got to do a lot more, and I really did love that. And I still love that idea. But I'm like, I would give that up in a heartbeat for the ability to do ministry the way that we do. Meet
And
with
I've
people.
seen so many people not come back to church
Yeah.
and not be good for them. That's the crazy part.
That's huge.
They've not come back to church, and it's not like we check in on them. Like
you
things
think
aren't
of-
good.
And
Can you think
they'll
of
tell
success
you.
stories?
They will
When-
tell you how terrible. I had a guy this Sunday come up to me afterwards and just start chatting. He's an awesome guy. And it's like, the difference between him in and out of church, he'll tell you, is a stark difference.
Yep.
And it's hard. And he even says, man, it's tough to get up in the morning and get the kids ready and come to church, and you're trying to juggle all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that sacrifice is worth it because something changes in him when he sits with other believers.
So
It's just different.
So mine was different than you guys growing up because I obviously didn't grow up in church. So I'd go to church here or there, different neighbors and people would bring in from school. You'd spend the night at somebody's house, you go to church with them. So that was all that. When I got saved, I went to church because it was almost like the Peter saying, Jesus, to whom shall we go?
Yeah.
You have the words of eternal life. Like, where will we go? And that's how I felt. I'm like, I'm going to church because I really want to know Jesus more. I want to be different. I want to change. Like, and it seemed like the place to learn more about the Bible, to meet other believers. Like, so for me, I looked forward. I tried to go to church as much as possible. So it was just, I was hungry, and it was the place where I knew, and I liked my church. So it was the place I knew where I could be fed.
It's interesting because I think you had a healthy humility since you knew nothing.
I knew nothing.
So you're like, I want to go to church because I don't know anything, so this is where I can go to learn. I think our problem was that we had an unhealthy sense of arrogance growing up in the church.
Right.
I already know. Whatever you're preaching on, I've heard it 16 times. I don't need to hear another message. So you start to think if that's all there is, then you get a little bit haughty and arrogant because you're like, dude, I've heard this sermon. You're preaching on, the Sermon on the Mount again? Great. Like, I've heard that sermon 1,000 times. So you seriously, you just kind of, you fool yourself into thinking there's nothing new for you to hear. And so I think just that lesson in and of itself, to stay humble, I don't care how long you've been in church, there could be something new for you is huge.
That was me in college. So I'm going to get a Bible degree, and we have chapel multiple times a week. I'm learning from, like, at our university, as like, the people they're quoting at church are writing the books that we're studying from. You know what I mean? And I just
and are your professors. Like, your professors were ballers.
Yeah, so, like, I didn't even want to go to church when I was there. But it was funny because I remember, because I was like, well, I was in college, is like, what do I want church for? Because people go there for community. Like, on top of, like, that's the one thing I'd be missing, right? I'm missing community. I'm like, I live on a Christian college campus. I've got community coming out of my ears.
Yeah, probably too much. Like, get away from me.
But I will say, the moment college was done, I longed to be in church. I was like, that did miss that community part of it.
Did you become a pastor right after college?
I became a YFC.
You were
director.
YFC. And
Yeah,
so
in college.
you went YFC, then what?
YMCA.
Yes.
Just in the band. Yeah, he was just
So
Don't hurt your
sorry, I
shoulder.
gotta finish it.
you got to finish it.
So then I was a youth pastor. So I went from YFC to youth
So
pastor.
you went straight.
Yep. So Youth for Christ. went
You've
to
been
youth
in
pastor. Full-time ministry since 1999.
never took break, never stopped.
Full-time since 99.
Yeah.
When you were 30 years old.
25. I was 28. I was close.
Oh.
Yeah.
I graduated college at
joking.
27.
Yeah.
I went to college late.
I was joking.
I went to college late. So
Oh, okay.
That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's weird to think 25 years of full-time ministry, and I've been a lead pastor since, that was not that 03. So going on 20 years, 21 years.
21. Yeah.
That's stupid. That's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
just nuts
crazy.
to think that.
We agree.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Nobody should have. The nice part is nobody would hire me, so I just mostly plant churches.
That
so,
is true.
Can't
And
get a job.
then just tank them.
That's
Plant it, tank it. That's
drive
the
it
goal.
down and
Yeah,
sit
yeah.
around.
We're on our way down. What was the question? 'Cause I wanted you to answer.
Why did you go to church before you were a pastor?
Yeah, I wanted to hear you because you especially, or did you? Because you showed up to lead or showed up to play in
Yeah,
bands.
think about that
was-
era. After you were sober, and then we meet.
Well, yeah. So
Yeah.
because the church I experienced before that was basically the Lutheran church, and I might have, like, in my teens visited another church with my buddy or two, and when I got sober, I met a guy, Bob Schultz, Rob Bob Slob.
Rob
And,
Bob's the man.
He, I don't remember how or when he heard me playing or singing, and he said, "Hey, but he invited me to sing for the group he was leading at the time, the Restoring Freedom group. And then he introduced me to you guys. It was you,
At
Kenny,
McDonald's.
and him, I think. Yeah, we were like, hey, they
That's
want
funny.
to
At
meet with you.
McDonald's.
I didn't realize
We saw a video of him playing on a phone.
I was gonna say
I
because
brought that up on yesterday's story. And
you showed me. I remember because Rob Bob played it for you. We were hanging out having cigars at LTD one day, and you brought it up to me because you were like, dude, you got to hear this kid. Because you were young.
I was. And so he basically, I think he invited me to Joe's church because that's where he was holding his group.
Encounter, yeah.
He was going there too.
Yeah. And so then I met Chaz, and it kind of, I know that I had church hopped before then.
Yeah.
And it was mainly it was focused on the music part. I wasn't doing it to get closer to God. I was doing it to hone my skills. It was purely for me.
When you
selfish.
say church hop, you were playing in different bands, or you were going to the other churches?
I was going to other churches, and I played in a
Including
couple.
your church,
I went to
you
your
said.
church once. I played with
at your
Elisa
church.
one time.
Yeah, I remember he played with
Yeah.
Elisa. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
and that didn't work out. So,
But you never, did you ever just go to a church?
No.
That's what I was
That's what I
wondering.
was saying. I wasn't going for the community or serving or seeking
You
God
went to play.
be closer. I always had the Lord in my heart in some way because he saved my life. But there wasn't that much of a relationship there that pushed me to attend. So it really was, what can I get out of this for me? It wasn't what can I get out of this, for him.
Before this, before First Street, did you ever go to a church just to go? So after Lutheran,
You know what?
before First Street,
I was serving at Valley Friends, and then I would work on Sundays.
so you never had like a home church after the Lutheran days
Yeah.
to First Street. That's super interesting.
I guess I called
we
Valley
hire
Friends.
well.
I guess we called Valley Friends. I could have called Valley Friends that.
You totally
'cause
did.
I was there for the longest
Yeah.
time.
I just am realizing it's so interesting that
Yeah.
you have never had that, like, I'm just going to be a part of a church. I think I'm in a very similar boat, honest with you. If I'm not leading in some way, I haven't really found a home church outside of
Right.
my leadership.
Yeah.
But like the serving gift that I want to, that. So it's kind of an interesting, like,
Yeah, it's like, am I
It's
that
this-
selfish of a person?
Yeah, looking
It's
back, I'm
also
like,
the same
geez.
thing
yes.
when like someone like it
Yes.
happens all the time. You end up somebody you let go from the job at church, right? So you could just say it was financially, no other reason. Like you just say they're great, we love them, but financially can't afford them. You gonna stick around and keep going to church here? They're like, no,
Of course not.
no, I'm not.
No.
Or like when you're applying for a job, so you're applying to be a pastor at a church, like,
Yeah.
why don't you come and attend for a while? And you're like, no, this
Yeah.
is like,
I'll be
it's
honest.
weird because we have a call on top of.
Sure. There is
Attending.
something different there. I know a number of guys, and it always it's like I'm always surprised by it, even though I don't think it's that weird, that were lead pastors of a church or leading high up in a church, and for whatever reason they stop, and then they see the importance of it, and then they just find a church they enjoy, and they just go and attend. And
I
I'm
think
like,
that's a sign of a good leader.
oh, I think it's amazing.
Someone who can
I
follow.
always think that if we had people like that in our church, I'm like, oh, do something. Like if you were a lead pastor, and not that there's a hierarchy, but it's like if you're a lead pastor, you understand kind of all the ins and outs of a church.
I actually think a great example of that is Judge. He wasn't a pastor, but he's been judging most of his
He
life.
still is so judgy.
Him and
so-
Tegan.
He's the judgiest
Yeah,
person.
not more than Tegan. Though.
That's right. She's a certified.
She's
now.
current. Yeah, she's a certified judge.
Yeah. I just think that's
do you
interesting.
want to pause this episode for me to go pee, or
Nope.
do you just want me
Nope.
to go pee?
I'll just
I
do
just thought I'd bring it
whatever.
up.
We're gonna
Yeah.
keep blow through it.
I just want.
What do we got? You can't pee. Stay here.
I'm gonna pee right now.
You-
I got a
you-
catheter in, but I got to take it out.
I can't believe it. That bad. Actually,
I got to go so bad.
what's
For
funny?
real? He's the one that asked if
He's
anybody
the
had
one
to
if
pee.
anybody needed to go, and chances are he didn't need to go. That's what's funny.
It must suck to get old.
Topic 2 on there is one that I really did, and just so that I know we can get to it because I thought it was really good. They have some great
Ditching Sunday service.
reasons, and this was, what's the name of it? What's it say on there?
18 reasons people are ditching Sunday service.
So this has come up. I feel like this is the third time we've talked about it in the podcast, but there are
I think it's relevant.
these 18 reasons I thought were really good, and I think the way they worded them was kind of witty.
Good,
I
like you agree with them? Like you can see it?
Well, I agree. Shoot, that I think is the scary part. Is
Yeah.
that I have worked hard in my life to always have a foot in normalcy. Because I grew up in mega churches, so I'm not the normal like, oh yeah, I know people who work in a church. Everyone I've known who worked in churches are full time and they're at mega churches making as much, if not more money than their congregations. Like they're ballers. And so when I became a lead pastor, I always wanted to keep a foot in normal vocation. Not that there's a holy or unholy. It was just that I liked having, which is why the woodworking and blacksmithing, I still meet with people and sit with them, and I talk about money, and I talk about like your design of this project. I'm not necessarily witnessing every 5 seconds.
No,
you know, I'm like,
I agree.
I'm just same way you play music at different places. I love that connection with, and in a bad way. So I think some of it's good, but I think in a bad way, if you only work vocationally in a church, you start to think differently. You become a little detached from the world. And again, I might be wrong in this. I just feel like what I have seen is for years, all those guys who did that all had moral failures and stuff happened. And I'm like, man, I like the idea of staying in just a normal piece of vocation. We all do that, which I think is actually really fun. Like we all have something outside of vocational ministry. Joe's an author and a radio host, and you play music. Floyd teaches. I mess with stuff.
Yeah.
Woodworker, ironworker.
And so with all that, I'm like,
YouTube famous woodworker.
I like all that, and so then I hear these, and I'm like, yeah. I not that I agree that that's why you should stop going to church, but it seems so like obvious, like because I'm not in a bubble.
I think your foot in the normalcy allows you to understand these points.
Yeah, I actually like that. So I wanted to go through these because I wanted to talk through their validity and kind of our response to them.
18 reasons people are ditching Sunday service.
So theme
I
going
like the
on
idea
today.
of ditching it. It's fun.
I do too.
Like,
The whole
Which
article
means
is
they've been
worded,
attending and they're ditching.
The whole article is actually worded very well. Somebody wrote it.
First one is rolling in religious riches.
What do they mean?
Strolled into a religious place and momentarily thought you walked into a billionaire's mansion by mistake. Too much luxury can distract from the spiritual journey, making it feel like we're on a trip to Monaco instead.
We don't have that problem here.
We don't.
We do not have that problem here. However,
Have you ever heard anybody complain about that?
yes, because of
Give me help
this
me.
may be a different one because I know there's one in there's another one in this article that is dealing with the building. That the building is too opulent. That they've spent more on the building than they have on any ministry.
See, for me, it'd be more the individuals.
Okay. So also, yes, I think there is and that's the hard part, right? That you want to be, most of the time you want to be with people that are like you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you are the upper wealthy class, you're probably not
just walk
going.
into any of the 5 mega churches we have
100%.
here and like inviting any of those, even their friend, to our smaller church. It's only 6,000. This invite to our smaller church, and they're like, no. And I would never say this to them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, right, because in your mind, you live at this upper echelon of the economic status, and that church represents that.
Yes.
And it's almost out of place for you. So when we have people who are more wealthy and they come here, I'm almost like proud of them. They're like, that is not the reason I'm going to a church or not.
You know, because the flip side to that is I've had musicians who have served and they haven't played again, but I know that they're playing in
At places they get paid.
At places they get paid or at other churches that are larger.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I understand.
Bigger audience for them to play.
For whatever
it's interesting.
reasons. It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain about that the building's too nice. I have heard somebody.
Well, not here they have it.
No, but we all went to mega churches at some point. So when I was at Willow for years, I never heard anybody complain about it. Mostly people were taken with it. But the one place I did hear a complaint was at in Irvine, and they used to hold the Catalyst. I don't know if they still hold
That is Mariners.
Mariners, and they had a skate park out front.
Yep.
And I heard people make some snide remarks about that, and I thought
What? Why?
I thought to me, I'm like, well, my church had 3 basketball courts, and we had the largest ministry of people who don't go to church went to the basketball ministry.
Yep.
So like the largest outside of Willow, which is 20,000 people, the largest amount of pure concentrated people who don't go to church went to our basketball ministry. I'm like, that's a good investment. Like the skate park is, like we're trying to welcome kids from the community. It's Southern California to come be on campus and feel comfortable. I'm like, that to me makes the most sense. If you've got money and you're like, we can build something like that. I'm like, that's brilliant.
The hard part, so I was really good for, I knew a guy that was, I almost lied. I knew a guy that worked at Mariners who told us kind of the inner workings. They were massively in debt. Like it was
I know this story.
insane.
Yep.
And so he, even working there, was very much like dude, this is wrong. Like we're doing something that he kind of viewed as unbiblical by taking on that much debt.
Like being poor stewards.
Yeah.
They're kicking the can down the road was the concept. They're basically believing in faith. That's like when I heard them talk about it. So I'm friends with some leadership from that area as well.
Yeah.
And that was their concept, not whether I agreed with it or not, but that was how they thought about
absolutely.
it. We're reinvesting, hoping that it will continue.
And they came under fire a lot for that kind of stuff. They had probably the most beautiful campus I'd seen.
Coolest one I've ever seen.
I don't know if
their
there's-
sanctuary wasn't very nice, but it was cool.
No, but their chapel was it's the nicest chapel still to this day I think I've ever seen on a church
It's
campus.
funny. I was
It's the
going to
nicest
say
chapel.
that was the part that was made the least sense to me because
That
that
the
pretty much
sanctuary was cold.
and that the chapel was purely for weddings.
Yeah.
Because at that point it was so small they couldn't hold services
And
there.
the sanctuary was like a gym,
gym.
cold, bare
black.
gymnasium vibe.
Every wall was black.
The chapel was this craftsman style, gorgeous, and I mean like exposed giant beams. The whole thing cost a
Stained
fortune.
glass.
Yeah.
Just like the best of everything you've ever seen.
Purely for weddings.
And it's all they used it for.
I don't mean this in a negative way, but was that because that was a moneymaker? They invested and created something different and special because
It does seem like the chapel was
and
after.
size.
It seems like the chapel was built
Yeah.
after.
And I think when you scale something up, so a sanctuary that seats
Thousands.
thousands, yeah,
Thousands.
yeah, like let's say 5,000. A sanctuary that seats 5,000.
Wow.
Maybe let's say 2.
That's
maybe
a
it was
big
2.
gym.
It's
Nah,
probably-
it was
it's
huge.
probably, 2 or 3.
Yeah, 2 or 3. In order to scale decorative things to that size, it's incomprehensible the cost.
It's
of
like
it.
and
you
if
ever
you
been to
have
the Wells
300 people
Sanctuary?
there,
Yeah.
The Wells Old Sanctuary was the same way, just smaller than that.
100%.
It was just this big, giant looking gym.
Yeah.
Painted the walls black.
seen the
throw
newer one
chairs
yet?
in there. I've not been there.
I haven't been inside yet. I really want
Hey,
to.
we should all go on a Sunday.
We should. It's a good call.
Let's take a Sunday
And so I think that's a decision that you almost have to make as you go. Well, we're gonna build this giant room.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make it kind of nice, and they did. It was fine. But with a chapel, you can really yoke that thing out and decorate it. And I mean, again, exposed beams on a 1,500 square foot place versus a freaking 20,000 square foot place is way different. So, and we know that here. There's stuff we want to do that we're like, yeah, you can't scale it to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I have heard people complain about that. I think the idea of ditching a service because of that is stupid. You pick another church then.
Right.
Like you have so many different places as a local expression.
Talk to someone.
Sure. Yeah, but that's
And
way too mature. Nobody's doing that.
That ditching a service, that you're looking for a short-term fix for something that is going to be the same way when you come back. So that needs to be something where you address, is this the community that I'm supposed to be a part of?
But chances are their ditching is that first. Like if we know
First
anything
impression?
about people, no, they're gonna go. They like it. You know what I'm gonna start. When you start ditching, it's 1 foot out the door.
Right.
You're eventually just gonna stop going. It's gonna be your Christmas and Easter church. So if you're finding reasons to not go because of that, I get it. I also think that's a little bit. It sounds terrible, but a little bit of a maturity thing at
I can
that point.
understand still. Like I've had friends in college who their family would go to X, Y, and Z church locally because it's not because it is nice. And
Yeah,
they want to bring
absolutely.
their friends. Like, hey, look at this nice church that we go to.
Yeah.
Isn't that a level of all of us though? Isn't there like a level
Sure.
of church where like, oh, this is actually so
totally.
dilapidated, you know what I mean? Or just it's just not.
I like stuff that's
Not-
in the process.
I can't-
though.
yeah.
Like I like bringing people to the cafe. Like we're working
It's
on
funny
it.
is
I don't mind that either. I like
don't mind
that.
that
Like
either.
we're on our way, but we're also not going to take on a huge debt load in order to
No.
just make it nice today.
Right.
So we're taking our time.
and we're not just fixing it up to fix it up. We're fixing it up because we do want people to feel comfortable, right? Just
And
like
we
you-
do a ton of ministry outside to bring
Yes.
people in.
bring
for
people
sure.
in. We're saying like it doesn't need to be gold walls, but we do want it not holes in the walls. You know what I
What's
mean?
funny
Like,
is
that's
gold walls
big-
might feel homey for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we patch the holes with gold.
That's
that
right.
might
I
work.
wish
That might look
there
cool.
was a way for me to zoom in on the gold wall behind you.
Have you guys ever walked
true.
into a church and thought that it was too extravagant? Just curious.
Too extravagant.
No, more size. It's just too big.
I was upset with the guy I know walked us around Mariners, and it's funny looking back. I didn't realize how annoyed he was, but now I can see it because he would literally take us to a place and he would tell us how much it cost and how much debt they incurred because of it. So there was a parking garage that they did.
A bottom structure.
It was just one. So
garage?
But
so they had one.
built it
They
with
had
the
they had a
building.
parking lot, and they built one tier up, and it was something ridiculous. I wish I could remember the number,
I
but like
heard these numbers too.
when you added
It's like 10,000 a stall.
it was like it was like $10,000 per stall to add the second story, not including the bottom floor. By the way,
Okay,
the
so-
bottom floor was already there.
$1 million project.
Well
Well,
over.
more than that,
it
yeah.
was. It was.
Well, I don't know how big
because
it
I think
was.
it was more than
It's huge.
whatever it was. It was a
Huge.
and it was just one. And he said because the next tier up, the third floor, was like 10 times that. It was like anytime you went up, it just grew exponentially.
Did we go to one of those together?
We went to a Catalyst conference, I think is what it was.
Because Kegel was there and we saw his car there.
Yes, we hung out with
That's where we
Kegel,
were hearing
right.
all this. We heard all this information together. That's what it was. Because I remember we were there hearing some of this.
So we'll move on here to the
So weird. Yeah, what's two?
Cash, kind, or credit card donations. Like any other community, every faith institution requires funds to keep the lights on, but it's unsettling when the soft hum of spiritual chants is interrupted by the ringing of cash registers. Those heartwarming tales from scriptures shouldn't be punctuated with reminders about the new online donation portal or the ease of monthly direct. Okay.
Deposit.
Yeah. Why?
That's interesting. I mean, I've heard it a lot over the years. I don't hear it very much anymore. I just hear it kind of like stigmas like this. I don't hear from many individuals who say it anymore. Not that it's not true. I just think churches may have kind of toned it down a
Wait,
bit.
what is it? What is he
The
think?
churches are always talking about money.
Oh, he's talking about money. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they were saying just the idea of, I don't know, it sounded like money collected. I don't know what, it was weird.
It was kind of like, I guess, maybe the church they attended. I mean, obviously, this had to come from someone's experience. So maybe they attended the church that constantly, intermittently announced their, by the way, tithing. They didn't do one offering. Maybe they had multiple announcements. I don't know.
I think they're just being flowery.
Yeah,
in-
because
in-
they
in
don't. They're
describing
talking about like
yeah.
the end of worship. You have your announcements and offerings,
Yeah.
standard for churches.
Yeah.
And so the thought that you went from this, like, this is really great worship. Now give us some money.
Right.
Is that just that idea?
And I think it's just the idea that churches have in the past. And again, I don't hear that much anymore. I hear it in articles like this, which are usually from somebody who hasn't been to church in forever.
Right.
Or people who haven't been to church in a long time. And they're like, oh, I stopped going because they always talk about money, which I'm like, if you went, I'd be surprised if you heard a church talk a lot about money anymore. We're in the middle of a series on finances, and we open every one with like, yeah, we probably talk the least about finances of any place I've ever been, which I even realized this Sunday, and I told everybody, like, we might be doing a disservice to you because Jesus talks about it constantly.
A lot.
Right.
The Bible has it a lot, not because we want your money. It's because God makes it clear what money does to all of us. And so he has to tell us all the time, like, you're making this your God.
Yeah.
And when this is your God, when you serve money, things get really out of whack in your life. He's just reminding us all the time. And so I'm
The
kind of
thing
like,
that's trying to compete with your relationship with God the most is money.
which is
Anybody
so
talks
weird
about
to
it.
think about. It's not anger. It's not hate.
It's money.
It is money. 100%.
And it is the thing that divides people.
Yeah.
So I was guest speaking at Rock Harbor, which is a church that's joined together with First Street, and their lead pastor, Scott, is going to be joining our senior leadership team. He did the offering yesterday, and I thought he said something. He did a bunch of good stuff yesterday, but one of the things he said that I thought was interesting, he goes, hey, we're going to pray a blessing on not just the offering, but on all of your money. He was,
And
it'd be
says
weird to ask
all
God
of the finances, which I think so.
He's like, it's weird to think that we're just asking God to bless the 10% that you're giving away and not bless the 90% that you live on. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool because
I
it's just
told
thoughtful.
you the first time I heard him do it, I went back and watched, I think, 3. I think I've heard 4 times of him doing offering. He does offering better than any person I've ever heard. I'm like,
I agree. That's the
Sweet.
every week it's done differently.
Yeah.
He says something else. I'm so taken back every time. I'm like, dude, I'm legit moved when he does offering. It's beautiful.
It's
he does
really
it so
good.
well.
Yeah.
So
I can understand if they felt this way because I would think your thought process is, well, where's that money going, right? Because it's not the asking for money. It's like, it's free will. You don't have to. Right. But where's that money going? Yeah. And it's like, well, if I know they're good stewards and they're going, oh, we're going to work on a remodel for the children's wing because we want to open the preschool. You know, it's things of that nature. If that happened, and then over time I'm attending, and then I find out that the pastor just bought a private jet, and I'd be like,
I told you that.
What if you get to ride in the private jet?
then that is truly serving your community.
There it is.
Yeah.
So what's funny is I would have totally agreed with you in the past, and I think a little bit differently now after doing multiple studies on giving. We've, every year we try and do one, little series on finances. I hope that we all get to a place of my job is to give 10% to the storehouse, not decide what they do with it.
Sure.
And I need to, the giving of money for me, that 10%, the tithe specifically, is more about me than where I'm even giving it. It's about me and God realizing because of this 10%, this is proving to you and to me that money doesn't rule my life.
Right.
Well, and it's like that's a weird place to get to and I'm not saying give it to some place that is doing something bad.
I think the bummer is this person may have left before they got that message.
Oh, absolutely.
It's one of the classic lines we've said for a long time is, if you're having trouble tithing here, go to a different church. Like, find a place. This is good for you. So if you're like, it's you guys, well, then don't let us hinder that.
Right.
Go to another church and give there.
Right.
Like, it's not about us. It really is about you and just finding that place.
And all of our finances are public record.
Yeah.
You're not for profit.
Next one is the sacred. These titles are interesting. Sacred Gossip Train.
Yeah.
A little bit of community news never hurt anyone, but when sacred halls become echo chambers for the latest scoops and scandals, it derails the Faith Express. Keeping up with the analogy. Remember Mrs. Robinson? She seems to know more about everyone than they do about themselves. If you're learning more about Aunt Susie's secret tattoo than spiritual teachings, the balance tilted a bit too far.
It depends on what the tattoo is.
This is why I actually like this article, because it was actually it's well written. Yeah. It's kind of fun. But this one, I think, is one of the more valid. This is the one where I went, dude, I agree. I think churches have a knack for becoming such close-knit communities and getting gossipy, and I think that's real bad. I think it's real. I think it's one of the bigger, this sounds cheesy, but I think it's one of the bigger sins within the church that people don't really want to talk about.
And don't think they're
that big
doing
a deal.
it. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, no, I'm just
saying to pray for this guy.
That's one of the things that annoys me so
that
bad.
one's rough.
Using prayer requests as an opportunity to spill somebody's dirty laundry. That is messed up, man.
I guess it would fall under bearing false witness.
I don't think.
And it's often, too. That's the sad part.
But even if it's true, even if it's true, it's not okay.
I think it's bearing false witness to someone like, hey, man, I shared this to you in privacy and confidentiality, and now you're saying this to someone else.
I think if the leadership is really firm on what the Bible says about going to people, and I think if you do that well, I can't tell you how many times in a Christian organization, that I am the bad guy. For telling people, no, don't let them come tell us this right now. They're like, no, they just want to tell you, Pastor Watts. I'm like, no, have they gone through the Matthew process and talking to a person? I said, we're not putting that person on blast. We're not going to gaslight that person because you haven't done the work to go talk to them. Right. So that's happened so many times where, like, literally, I got in a fight with a board, my board at one church I was at, where I'm like, no, this is wrong. Like, biblically wrong. Like, I'm not going to do this. They haven't gone through these other steps to just talk to this person.
Yeah, follow the biblical model or shut up.
That's it. And and the board's like, no, you're the pastor. They should be able to. I'm like, no.
When you and I first merged back at the old building, it was a multiple times a week thing that I remember doing. Of people would come to me and be like, hey, I don't like this. And so they were coming with a genuine complaint that something had changed, because whenever you merge churches, things change. Right. So people would come to me and say, like, I don't like that this changed. And I was like, interesting. Like, why did it change from this to this? And they would say, well, and they would start, and it was funny because it did not win me too many points at first. It was really good in the long run. But I would say, no. Like, I don't want to hear who did what. You can tell me the what. Yeah. You can tell me the reason it changed. Don't tag someone on there. And they were always like, Well, no, because it's just, and I'm like, no. And I would tell them, it's not for you. This is more for me.
Right.
I don't want to have all these ideas because the way you're painting this person is obviously very, very negative.
Right.
And for me to pretend like that's not going to affect, I'm like, I don't want to hear any of it. And we did it so often that eventually people are like, well, I'm not telling them anything. And I'm like, thank you.
Good.
Right.
Go to that person. That's all we need to happen.
Right.
And that, luckily, I think that's where we are
I think
now.
more people
pretty well.
would like to know that it does affect the people in leadership.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
How would I
leadership,
not?
if leadership stops it stops becoming a cultural norm. I was in college and some girl made an accusation of like about me and Lisa or something like that. It was like one of Lisa's
A
friends.
very accurate.
Oh, yeah.
Accusation.
Yes.
And so,
Eyewitness.
and so I was a RA, and so my boss came to me and said, I'm new in the faith. I mean, I really am. I'm a sophomore. I haven't been a Christian that long at the time. And he comes to me, he's like, so-and-so said this. I go, why'd you listen? This is the dean of students. He goes, what? I go, she said something not true about me. Why didn't you just tell her to come confront me about it? And he's like, well, I mean, so I'm like, no, there's a biblical model. This is my boss at the time and the dean of students. But I'm like, but I know the Bible. So why did you listen to her?
Yeah.
Like now you've got something thinking about me that you don't even know if it's true because she didn't go through the process.
Yeah. And if she came to me first and I didn't listen, then go to you and
Right.
you can come to me.
She just came and said something that she never said to me or Lisa.
Yeah.
And so obviously we have found out we were completely guilty and got kicked out.
Yeah,
No.
it happens.
We were obviously found innocent, but I was so mad at him. And I just remember being like, I'm a student learning the Bible here. You're the dean of students. And you don't know this process of the Bible?
I think this is what happens in a church is that you hear something and you're like, oh my gosh, that is bad. We got to do something about that. I mean, I'm still guilty of this. Like when I hear stuff, I'm like, dude, call that person right now and let's just clear it up because I don't want things to fester.
Slap his child.
And then slap his kid. And then it's funny because I'm like, that's even skipping the step of maybe just tell that person to deal with it. And sometimes those people are like, look, I'm not comfortable.
Then
And there are some reasons why they shouldn't do it,
There's a
but that's
few.
pretty rare.
so rare. 'Cause
Most
in
of the time, it's like, although there have been times too where we've heard that people have done that, where they go to the person and you're like, oh, that was horrible.
Yeah.
You not only should you not have gone to that person, you should have just never said anything ever. Never let that out.
Yeah.
Tact.
Like that's a thought you had. That was a bad thought.
You can
Yeah.
come to us and say, hey, I have an issue with the person. I'm not going to say who. I need some advice on how to handle this.
handle it. Yeah.
That's it. Like,
Perfect.
give me some, like,
That's
great.
fantastic.
Absolutely.
yeah.
This next point is reiterating on the money thing. Ticket to heaven, anyone? Generosity has always been a cornerstone of many faiths. Yet there's a stark difference between voluntary contributions and feeling like you're paying an admission fee for divine blessings.
That's
Find-
funny. When
find your way.
I just read the title of that one. I thought it was saying that you had to go to church to be saved. But this one's talking about money also.
it says every time you reach your wallet, wondering about the returns on your spiritual investment.
All right.
It's like-
that one's dumb. If you think that salvation is tied to
if
money,
you go to a Catholic
you're
church,
right.
though, where you're
what? Wait.
kind of you're buying candles for the
Next
dead.
one,
There's some stuff like that. You're paying for things. People in
I've never.
purgatory.
It's so funny because the candle one, I'm always like, the gorgeous cathedrals, the
Yeah.
ones in London and stuff. And they're selling and they're not super expensive. I'll say that. They're not like gouging people for these. And I always think like, I know they have to cover the cost of these candles, but I don't like that you're telling somebody they should do something and then selling it to them. I'm always like, unless if there were a sign that literally said like, this is the actual cost of the candle, I'd be like, I feel better. I would feel better knowing that you're not making anything on that candle for
Right.
some reason.
Well,
I don't know
especially
why.
also if you're saying like it's purgatory, like you're helping
what I'm
bring
saying.
relief to your loved one who's suffering in eternity.
That is
crazy.
That's bigger.
Right?
Yeah, that's a bigger conversation.
That is.
Sacredness lost in construction. Innovation is excellent and adapting to the times is commendable, but priorities might have shifted in your church or temple Priorities might have shifted in your church or temple starts resembling a trendy cafe more than a place of worship. They've been to our church. Yes, everyone loves a good cup of Joe. Hey. But when caffeine gets more attention than the creator, it's time to brew over the real purpose of these spaces. This is, I like the wordiness.
I know. This is what I said. That's why I like this
There's a
article.
sass in this.
I think there is some validity to that. I think, this is not a defense of our church. I like that we had individuals step up and do it, like for a lot of our stuff
Right.
versus the church's funds. There are times where I'm like, Yeah, but when stuff gets run down to a point, it's insane to not like the building when we moved into this place was in shambles.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff was falling down, and so you have to do that. And then there is a real conversation that you have in the same way that you have it in your own home. We have to fix this. We can fix it for the bare minimum and still have a building to meet in. We could spend a little bit more and make it a really comfortable place that people will feel invited into and comfortable in.
Yeah.
And then there is we could spend a fortune. So you're like, okay, so where in there do you decide? And there's no hard answer, right? You go to the Spirit, you pray, you get consensus of your people and say, this is what we're thinking. How do you guys feel? And you're probably going to offend somebody.
I think
Right.
it's
That's the crazy part.
interesting because I think the most churches I know that have built some sort of a cafe or food court or something like that, the intent was not to get you to go to church, was to get you to hang around church so that you'd actually spend time more believers. It's good for community.
Yeah.
They're making an investment in your well-being.
Yeah.
I've never heard them be like, once we open up this coffee bar,
Right.
then we're going to be like, no.
It's not a bait and switch.
No.
It's,
It's a benefit to the people.
Yeah.
So when you're saying like, the losing the purpose of the creator, like, no, you're actually getting people to connect with each other and to love each other and to spend time. Like, don't run out of church. Hang around. Spend some time together.
I've heard a lot of conversations of we want to build this because hopefully the people will come to like the cafe and then the church will grow because of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that conversation a lot, which I'm like, I don't even know if that's necessarily horrible.
Right.
You know,
There's still the point of that they'd meet Jesus
Yeah.
through the coffee bar.
and I think we can justify virtually anything.
But I think the importance of it is the connection to the people. So like the people you have work in the bar, like I wouldn't want. There's obviously a time and place. If someone feels called to serve and they're like, "Hey, I want to serve at the coffee bar," I'm like, "Yeah, I think you're in the right spot. I think that's good. Let's do
Yeah.
it." You know, it's not every single person who wants to do that.
Right.
And I've spent some time at a coffee shop, and it's like, I don't know if the people working are Christian or not. I just don't. Just in the interactions and stuff. But I'm not going there for that. I'm going there for coffee and have a place to read and work. So I can understand it. I can understand it.
It's a funny one. Another one where
Floyd,
you're like,
any thoughts on that?
I don't know if he would leave because of that.
Yeah.
The only thing that I heard is Josh doesn't think everybody's qualified to volunteer at the coffee bar.
They're not.
That's what-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not at our coffee bar.
You have to meet
Anybody could do
Josh's.
it.
You have to meet Josh's standards.
They're pretty high. Those are pretty high standards.
There's a reason you asked me to make your coffee and not
Solid
make it
point.
yourself.
That's a good point.
Crystal makes me
That's a good
coffee
point.
almost every Sunday.
They're doing a good job.
You're doing a great job.
Next one is the rockstar pastor syndrome. They have been to our church. Leadership in faith is about humility, guidance, and walking the talk. But eyebrows inevitably rise when your pastor seems more comfortable on a red carpet than at the altar. It's one thing to be popular and another to bask in the limelight. The congregation needs spiritual guidance, not a performance.
I think
It's fair.
I think that's it sounds bad, but that's probably the best reason so far to not go to the church.
I'd be like, all right.
And even at a small church, by the way, because you become a local rock star.
Absolutely.
So you could be a church of 50, but still, like
Yep.
these 50 people worship you. Like
Yep.
you're amazing.
Yeah.
And I do think that our model combats that naturally. I think that
I think
By having
yeah,
two non-talented people.
that actually helps.
Two not stars.
Yeah.
net stars.
Curiously I didn't mean that. Curiosity not appreciated here. Spiritual journeys are personal and filled with questions. It's the quest for answers that deepens faith. However, if your genuine inquiries are brushed aside or met with dismissive retorts, it stunts spiritual growth. Yeah, spiritual growth.
Yeah,
Wait,
that's
so you skipped on to the next question? You went on to the next one? Oh, let's just make one more comment. So we're going to Willow. They called it the bullpen. So when service was over.
This was the rockstar one.
yeah.
And Bill
Everybody's
Hybels
waiting.
You wait, and it's a long line to go just talk to Bill Hybels. Now, first of all, that's just mathematical. You have
Yeah,
thousands of people.
exactly.
One guy who preached.
Yeah.
They're gonna wait to talk to him.
And he's making himself available to talk to anybody
He
is
did that
impressive.
every single week.
Because I know a lot of guys
He
who
stood
don't.
down and waited and did not have a handler
Yep.
who would be like, okay, we need to get Bill out of here.
I know a lot of guys with way smaller churches that wouldn't talk to anybody.
This is at their
afterwards.
peak too. I mean, there's
Yeah. It's
20,000
pretty
people.
amazing.
That actually reminds me of when I was on the cruise with Tony Evans, his group, Urban Alternative, and our agency was managing the cruise, and I was shocked at how
Much he got paid.
how inviting and how naturally kind and patient. I remember when I picked him up. I picked them up from the airport.
Oh, okay.
You're not so heavy.
Come on, Tony. Him and his wife, and I asked for a suitcase and everything, and he has his briefcase with him, and he's like, oh, I can, I got my hands, I can carry it. It's like, that's kind of you. I'm like, okay. So we got on the ship. Everyone wanted to talk to him, even people who weren't with the group. There were staff who wanted to talk to them. So him, Priscilla Shire, who was in the war room, his daughter, and his son is a gospel singer, Anthony Evans, and and his wife Lois, they all spent more time talking with people, listening to them, sitting with them. We only had the ballrooms for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
The staff would come to me. I worked as an ambassador to the crew, and they would come to me saying, hey, we have an event coming up in a half hour. We need to clear this room out. And I said, I'm sorry, Tony Evans is still sitting, kneeling on a chair, listening to this woman as she's crying and telling her story. And there are people lined up and they're waiting too. And I think that was evidence.
I didn't even went on the cruise with them.
Yeah, and that was evidence of his leadership. Was his people were patient enough to wait to talk to him.
Well, you told me a story too about there was a staff member that didn't get to attend any of the conference.
Yeah, she was the sweetest thing ever, and she memorized our drinks and our names and everything. And she was Christian. They have chapel down on one of the lower decks. And she says, I love Priscilla Shire. I love the war room. I'd love to meet her, but I work all the time. They, before we went offshore, I don't remember which port. That's not important. But they actually all met with her. They knew her name. She actually had books that she gave out at the conference, and she gave her one sign, and they prayed with her, and they sat with her probably an hour.
Wow.
An hour.
That's awesome.
And she was in the midst of like cleaning up her coffee. She worked the coffee bar by herself. She was a rock star. And that rocked me. That was so much selflessness and service to people they've never met. And people who are not going to contribute or tithe to their church or attend. It's just, they're just really serving people.
I'm amazed that that's the exception to the rule. That blows my mind when you talk about celebrity in general.
Yeah.
And I've never understood it because I'm always like, you are annoyed with the people who made you.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably a little bit less in the world of like Tony Evans, like a religious world. But still, I'm like, you don't have fame or popularity or wealth, all the things that you love in your life. You have none of it without these
all
people.
of your goals.
Yeah.
So you're going to ignore. I don't care how tired you are after an awards show.
Right.
You freaking stand there for hours. They're the people that made you.
There was a video of Dave Grohl. People were asking for his signature, and I actually love his position. I agree with it. He said, "Hey man, I'm only going to sign something, brother, if you're going to do it for charity."
Yeah.
And
Because they're all selling their
the
stuff.
comments were ripping him apart. You don't have the time. I said, guys, are you not reading into the context of what's happening? People were taking things he signed and selling them online for their own personal gain.
Yeah.
And he says, well, if you're going to do that, I know people are going to do that. I'll do it if you sell it for charity.
Right.
And I understand people are going to miss out on that
So
opportunity.
advanced lying in his concerts.
Yeah.
They're all like, yeah, this is immediately getting donated to whatever organization you want.
Right.
Dave.
Dave, that's what I'm doing. You got me. You were saying about I forgot. So go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna take time trying.
That's a big one. I think that's a good one. I think
next
that's
one-
the better one.
The next
and then
one is
this one is probably the next
is
best
the
one.
curiosity not appreciated here. Basically, just shutting people down when they have questions or want to open conversation, which is something that I think was new for me here. Was the
so crazy.
fireside theology, just having that.
It is unique here.
Yeah.
I hear stories.
It's not like this anywhere else.
No, and the other churches I worked at, even from a staff member, like I was one of the pastors, they didn't want me asking questions, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this is like my organization too. Like I
work here.
I work here, so I like this place represents
clarity.
me, and I represent it.
I serve the same Lord you do.
It was crazy to get shut down and be like, I have such a easygoing demeanor that I would just not push back.
Yeah.
But it was like, because that infuriates me. What do you mean? So the fact that a congregant who has a genuine question about their faith, I'm like, how do you not leave air for that?
I will say now,
not leave space for that.
Every job I've had was open to it. Now I realize it. YFC, my YFC area director, was totally fine with questions. And then even my conservative Baptist church, first job I had as he was also very confident in himself. That, I think, is also part of it. Some leaders get threatened real easily.
So I think that's the biggest distinction. The first place I worked, which is the biggest church, they were the biggest church in town. I mean, they were everything. And the lead pastor there, G.L. Johnson, that dude knew God real well.
Yeah.
And so when I asked him anything, he's like, let's talk. And he would sit, we would sit and actually have conversations. And then other places I've worked, it's like, you could tell there's insecurity there.
Yep.
So any question was a challenge. When you're a kid, I probably said it wrong, to be honest. I probably asked questions in an arrogant way. I probably said things that were stupid. But still, I'm like, no, this isn't about you. I'm asking about the organization part of this. But he felt like it reflected on him. So it was very defensive, and it was very confusing. Very odd.
With Walt Peacock, who was the lead pastor I worked as the youth pastor, I could
Walt
ask him.
Peacock.
Yep, Walt
That's a
Peacock,
great name.
from Georgia.
That's a TV name right there.
So Walt Peacock, I could ask him anything, and he, first of all, he was just super smart. He had a PhD, just a brilliant guy. And I'd ask him things that would go against the theology of what they're teaching.
Yeah.
And he would present it in a way that wasn't shutting me down.
Yeah.
And he'd even be like, well, he's like, well, biblically, this would be, like I asked about tattoos. This is like back in the day. I'm like,
Body's a temple.
I'm doing research on tattoos. So I thought, my gut was, go to the guy who will absolutely tell you why you shouldn't get a tattoo
who's most
according to the
against
Bible.
it.
Most against it. So he's my first stop. Yeah. I go to him, he goes, well, biblically, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I was like, what? He goes, I think culturally might be a bad testimony, but this is very even-handed. Like, I'm not sure how a tattoo would look for a Christian, but he's like, but biblically, and he went through this whole thing. And then so I asked him about divorce another time. Again, this is like a church. You don't get divorced. They're one step away from the Catholics.
Yeah.
You don't get divorced.
You're
He's like,
excommunicated.
well, the divorce is the sin. He goes, the remarried part. He's like, you can get remarried. Like, he went through this whole thing. And again, I was very impressed with him. He wasn't shutting me down. He was having a conversation with me.
And isn't that the best answers? I'm not going to tell you what to do. I will tell you what the Bible says, some of which is open to interpretation, let's be honest. But some of which is pretty cut and dry and clear.
Yeah.
Here's what the Bible says. Now, here's from my standpoint, the perception that maybe your culture, your family, your environment might have, that it might be different. And so it's the whole thing to where it's like, specifically, that's not a sin, but it might cause your brother to stumble. It might actually give you a bad testimony. Yeah. And like, those are real things to consider.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic.
I think it's a great example in Proverbs 27. Iron sharpens iron. It's sharpening.
27:17.
Yeah,
Yes.
sharpening the leader and the person asking.
A lot of sharpening happening.
A lot of sharpening. Get to the point.
Floyd, thoughts? Okay, good.
One-sided sermons. Religion in its essence is universal and inclusive. When sermons start veering towards exclusivity or bias against certain groups, they chip away at the foundation of universal love and acceptance. Every congregation member should feel seen, heard, and valued, not left out of the spiritual conversation.
So, right? I mean, isn't that on a spectrum, right? Isn't there inclusivity in John 3:16? God loves the world.
Yeah.
Right? But then it starts to move towards like this idea of John 14:6. I am the way, the truth. That's the spectrum. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
Right.
So all of a sudden, in preaching Scripture, you're somehow including everyone, and yet at sometimes excluding everyone. I'm sure they're talking about subgroups where like you're being negative towards political ideologies, something like LGBTQ or something like that. I think they're talking about that. But there is this weird
I've heard
spectrum, I think, that you deal with as a preacher.
the question that's come up between people who have attended and people who lead. It's like, do you think the church is for non-believers or believers?
Yeah, you're right that is a...
And that's what I think about with that.
And what is the Sunday service for?
Right.
Because some people will view that as to reach out and for non-Christians to meet Jesus. Mm-hmm. Other people think it's for believers to kind of get refueled and go back into the mission field.
Right.
So, which is interesting because then we all have different perceptions of that.
But it's true.
Willow got beat
It's
up
like
for being
yes.
seeker sensitive. They created that title. And
Yeah.
they're like, whoa. What
But
are you
it's
talking
yes
about?
for both.
Which is funny because even they, in their own admission, went too far in the seeker sensitive at times and went, oh, we should, can't get too
They
stupid.
were redacting some things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. that makes me like them more.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh, you mean you tried some stuff and then you got a little away from you and then you went, hey, let's correct a little bit. Do you mean you're a human?
Right.
In fact, you're probably a wonderful human to even see the mistake of the route that you started to go down
Well,
and
and
move a
then
little
admit
bit.
it.
That's great.
The fact that you could admit that you messed up
Yeah.
and went too far, and so now you got to pull back.
And they would
I
even
think
tell,
that's wonderful.
they'd even tell you when you went to Willow, when they had those secret sensitive services, they'd say, just so you know, this is not everything. You need to come back on Wednesday or Thursday night for new community, and we're going to teach the Bible for an hour in depth.
It's like what we're saying.
They'd always say it's like a step. They always said that.
Yeah.
So it was like they were balancing it, even if you didn't like it. They were at least saying, well, there's a philosophy. You come here on Sunday morning, we're going to introduce you to Jesus. Come back on Wednesday and Thursday night. We're going to
I
teach you.
wonder if they, or if you worded it differently for people. Because I think the people who would push back against that are like, well, that's not a church. And you go, okay, so call it something else. What if we just called it the Sunday gathering?
Right.
And all this is for is to introduce people to Jesus, and then we're pushing them to the other churches that are on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday nights. Like, if it's just a verbiage thing, because the truth is, you get to decide what every gathering is going to happen in your church, and I think we're always trying to figure that out too.
Yeah.
Like, I want our church to teach and help Christians to grow, but we have a lot of non-Christians. We had hands go up this weekend.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I prayed this prayer for the very first time. They accepted Jesus for the very first time. Every week, for God knows how long, somebody has accepted Christ on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So you have to know
Every other.
if you're right. You have to know when you're preaching. Like, I'm preaching to both. I'm preaching to somebody who does not know Jesus, and I'm preaching to somebody who's been a Christian for 40 years.
Right.
I think the model in Scripture, and I think we try to do this, not because we're right. I think the model in Scripture is Jesus is teaching the Word, right, into to the Jews, but then he's saying, and everybody's invited. It's a both and. So you're like, this is what the kingdom of God is like. Everybody's invited. I think on Sunday morning, you're like, hey, believers, this is what this looks like. And then you realize there are people on the outside of that conversation.
who are listening in.
And you're saying, hey, you're invited into this. No, you've been listening to all this. Is this something you want to be a part of?
But on top of that, he left the 99 to chase the one.
Yeah.
Very irresponsible.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
What happened to the night?
You guys are fine. Micromanaging the masses. Guidance, yes. Overbearing rules, no. Thank you. No, thank you. When your place of worship begins to feel like a strict boarding school for ever-growing list of do's and don'ts, it's suffocating.
Yeah. That's a good one.
There's more, but that's
No, that's valid. I think.
I'm a yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I even
Okay.
felt like on Sunday, even just talking about finances, I'm like, we're not telling you to give money. That's not what this is. We're just telling you what the Bible says. We're telling you the pros and the cons. Like, and so, but it is I even thought, like, I think it's weird when churches even say, like, don't give to that organization. Don't shop there.
Oh,
that happens.
Churches say that?
Oh gosh.
It happened a lot in the 90s, man.
Yeah.
Also, who to vote for.
There was
What TV.
a lot.
Big on what TV to watch or not watch.
There was a
Lutheran
lot
church didn't
of
do that.
you vote with your
You guys are
dollars.
drinking a lot of beer.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
You vote with your money.
Dry wine.
So it's like if you're voting with your money, and then it's like we want to make sure that you're voting correctly. Like this store. I mean, that happened last year.
This
right?
is evil.
Target.
Don't shop at Target.
Target.
Don't
That
go
was
to
huge.
Disney.
Oh, I'm going
Don't
to
drink
hell.
Bud Light. Like
Yeah.
we did it. Churches did it a
Well,
ton.
if
We
you
didn't
like-
do it ever because I'm like, you're an adult. You figure out what you want to do with your money.
Here's what
That's between
Scripture
you and
says.
God.
Here's what Scripture says about a bunch of things. Now apply that.
Yeah, and we never spoke specifically to those things because part of me is like, I don't know if that's
You like
our
Target?
role.
I have the biggest.
It's too expensive.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. Don't shop there because you can get the same thing for cheaper
At Walmart.
Be smart with your finances. This is being a good steward.
Well, the other part too is
I mean, it's closer.
I've never been a big fan of
I'm using less gas.
like this big corporation's bad, the other one's good. I'm like, but
Oh,
are
it's
they?
insane.
Are they
Yeah,
good? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like,
That's how I feel about the political sides when people start bringing up morality. I go, oh,
Yeah.
vote the policy, but because if you're voting morality, you should just go to an island by yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Like these aren't moral institutions that we've set up. Like I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on.
No.
One of them might support your beliefs more. Fine.
Right.
But let's not try and pretend like one is good and one is bad.
Right.
That's insane to me.
Yeah. Next one here is, where's the hug when you need one? If faith were a person, it'd be the type to always offer a shoulder to cry on or an ear to vent. Faith should uplift and offer solace. However, some religious spaces have become hubs of judgment, where pointing fingers is more common than extending hands. And
that's
I agree
fair.
with that.
Yeah.
I feel like you go to churches, they want to hug you more than you want to. So go ahead.
Me too. I was just gonna say.
All right,
They get kind of huggy.
I feel better.
I always love someone getting hugged who doesn't want to be hugged.
On Sunday that happened. Somebody walked by and was like, "Hi," and they were like, "Oh my gosh, hi," which to me is like, "Hug me," and I go in for a hug. They freaking cold fished it, and I went halfway in. I was like, "Oh," and I did a one pat, and I was like, "Pow, I'm out," because they did. But I'm like, you started it.
Yeah.
you did your arms out.
started it.
It was,
That's great.
dude. It was
We have
genuinely
We have a
funny.
girl, Melissa, at church. Not girl, she's just short.
She's a woman.
Yeah, she's Lisa's friend. But anyways, I put a hug on her all the time because she hates it.
She does.
So I'm always
She is
like-
fun to
I'm
hug.
always just like, this is happening.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Your Amazon notifications keep popping up. Did you really buy another lighter?
Oh yeah, have you seen two actually?
Two lighters.
I meant to bring-
another one just popped up.
I meant to bring in.
They were just delivered.
I meant to bring in one of them.
Are they table lighters, or are they like?
No.
My new one's super
buddy.
good. I'll bring it in. It's really fun. It's kind of
leaders-
steampunkish.
Leaders taking detours.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to read the trailer to that one.
Religious leaders are like guiding stars lead the flock, but stars can fall too. When these leaders make personal missteps or veer off the righteous path, the ripples affect everyone who looked up to them. It's disorienting and makes people question their path and sometimes even the destination.
Oh, this is more like
Yeah.
moral failures.
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
This
No,
actually
they're
sounding
just-
more like AI wrote this.
It's starting to get a little weird,
AI
right?
It's starting to be like AI's, because you ever see AI do some like flowery stuff, try to be clever like this?
Right, right.
It's starting to feel like AI.
Right.
That one's like, yeah, that's terrible.
Well, they missed the analogy here. They said wolves in holy clothing,
It's AI for sure.
sheep clothing.
No, it's AI for
It's
sure.
sounding more. That last one, I'm like, this is AI.
Yeah, you nailed it. Good job.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
Moral. Yeah. Confused by the commandments, religious teachings should be a guiding light, not a puzzle that leaves you scratching your head. However, different interpretations can appear, which can muddy the waters. Imagine lighthouse whose light flickers unpredictably. Sailors struggle to find their way, and similarly, followers grapple with understanding their spiritual direction when teachings lack clarity.
Well, yeah. I mean, now you're just talking about. I mean, yes. You're now bringing up things
Well,
like.
this is kind of rehashing one of the earlier ones too.
It feels
They're
like
kind
it,
of,
yeah.
kind of
They-
like
they
we're
all
getting
do
in the
this.
same. 18 is probably too many.
Too many.
I was just gonna say. I think we now know that
Yeah,
AI
these are
wrote this,
repeating all about the aesthetics.
and some are super valid.
Lost in translation can be
Sure.
a challenge, but that's what community's for.
Right.
All right.
And reading other translations.
Yeah,
so that was fun.
Is it
That was good
literally
art.
about
good.
translations?
but it
Let's do
was
a couple of.
it
would you
was
rathers.
good.
It was good.
That was good. I think
Good
there's. Yeah. I don't know.
Let's see here.
It was good. It was good
fine.
theme.
Yeah, it was fun.
thematic all day.
Yeah.
Other than that really crazy start.
I don't even remember the
Would
story.
you rather's on here?
Oh,
here we go.
Guinness.
Would you
Okay,
rather?
yeah.
Would you rather receive $5 million or have a 5-minute conversation with God?
5 minutes.
That's
too fast.
legitimately on Reddit.
Yeah.
That was a Reddit question. I thought,
5
interesting.
minutes.
What were the answers
feels
on Reddit?
short.
I didn't. I just
5
was
minutes feels
grabbing
quick.
them.
Oh, if you could find it, send the link. I want to
It's
see
the-
what people say.
Yeah.
What?
But there's no.
Okay.
It was the first one on Reddit today.
Let's do your answers first.
Well,
5 mil or 5 min?
it's harder to get a wealthy man into the kingdom of heaven and then through a camel through the eye of a needle.
Yeah. No, that's real.
It's not an answer.
That's real.
Yeah, but what if you blow the 5 million real quick and then you're no longer wealthy?
Oh, nicely done.
Hey,
Finding loopholes with God is perfect.
Yeah.
He's good
He's
at
all
that.
that's how you get a
Here's the
conversation
best-
with him.
Here's the best part. Like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to God. I'm like, maybe I can get some tips on the stock market.
Yeah.
He's
God,
not
what,
giving you
what
any of
stock's
that.
going to blow
Right.
up? I had a fun conversation with somebody after Sunday's sermon who was like, we were joking about there's a prayer that Solomon prays. It's the don't give me too much or too little prayer, which I'm like, I'm terrified to pray that prayer. You're the coolest. I just think you're so special if you can pray that prayer
Do you
with
really think
sincerity.
it's difficult for you to say that prayer?
Absolutely.
Say it again.
It is for me.
Say it again.
Don't give me too much or too little. And the too little part, I'm like, absolutely. I love praying that prayer. But the don't give me too much. Don't give me more.
But it was the why behind the too much.
Oh, no. He's right. Oh, I'm saying that's the
Isn't
correct.
so
That's scary.
It's a good, if you contextualize that, then you realize God can give you a whole lot that's not too much. Because he had a whole lot.
So this is interesting.
Right?
I laughed that it was Solomon of all
Because I'm like,
people praying.
I'm like, so what's the too
Probably
much
the
on-
wealthiest dude
But
in
it must
all
have
of
been.
history.
Yeah.
It must have been too much. You know that because why else would he have the wisdom to ask that, to pray for that?
But also, and remembering that he did, wisdom was his thing.
Right.
And so I don't know if there could be a too much for somebody that wise. Although it's not like that guy was perfect.
No.
He messed.
There
he,
had to be.
He did mess up a lot. So maybe it was too much. I don't know.
I don't either.
It was more of just that, like,
Lord, why have you given me so
Yeah.
much? My concubines and my gajillions of dollars.
I
and my
think it's
power.
because when I think about too much,
I would ask that.
I'm almost positive that we all have too much.
Yeah.
Like that's, and I'm like, so to me, it's like, so God needs to take some of the stuff away from me, which he definitely has. And so like, you kind of have that realization and
from
you're
all of
like,
us,
oof,
yeah.
that's
It's interesting, yeah.
anyway. So
$5
what would you
million.
pick?
And are you
5 million or 5 minutes?
And are you
Over 5
thinking?
minutes.
I'm sorry. Is the context of too much speaking specifically just finances?
Just anything.
Okay. Because this is would you rather? I was just thinking. about
I do. It's funny that you say that. Because I think of the way that he says it. It's do not give me too little so that I steal and curse your name.
Right.
Don't give me too much so that I forget about you and say who is God.
So you think it's
So
finances?
So I
mainly-
think it's more of
mainly
a
finances.
wealth and finances.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? 5 minutes or 5 million?
5 minutes for sure.
Are you saying face to face? Because
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, this
No, it's
is.
God.
I thought that too. I was like, I can have
could
5
talk
minutes right
to
now.
him right now.
Yeah.
No, like there is an entity in front
Like
of
you
you,
and you and
Well,
Moses.
then I go blind.
but then you don't melt. Yeah, you gotta have that.
It's Moses in the crevice, right?
You
Where
don't
God-
melt away
Right,
like
right.
who was it? Isaiah?
Burning bush.
Who's
Isaiah was worried.
Isaiah's
Yeah.
atoms came apart.
but it's no. There's no middleman of the
No.
bush.
This is a bright light, and you get
You
to sit.
know it's God. Everybody
Yes.
else would say that
know
was
what?
God.
And God speaks back. The light speaks
I think
back
the fun
to you.
That's
thing
the thing.
is I'd take the 5 minutes, but it wouldn't feel like 5 minutes.
What do you mean by
Would,
that?
would it feel
Yeah,
like
the whole-
Probably
a
wouldn't.
split second?
I think in his presence it'd feel like a year
or a split second.
or a split second.
Okay.
That'd be enough.
So
Or
wait,
both.
what are you picking?
Dude, 5 minute conversation with God.
Okay.
What are you taking, Floyd?
I'm taking the 5 minutes for sure because I think that knowing with certainty who you are in Him means
Yeah.
more than any dollar amount you can have.
Yeah, I would say my gut was the 5 million. That was my gut.
I don't get
But
that,
the funny part is, the more I mean, I was just went with that. But
Yeah, for sure.
The funny part was, I really thought like, man, I remember when I first was like afraid of like got saved. And I'm like afraid of the dark, and I'm afraid of demons. Now demons are out there, and I'm
Yeah.
afraid of them. And I used to say when I'd walk around, I'm like, show me your face. I said, I'm gonna be scared. I said, but then I'm gonna know what I believe is actually true.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna go from believing to knowing.
Yeah.
That same concept, like we will shift from believers to knowers.
Yeah.
Like we know.
Yeah.
What would you be like for the rest of your life with that kind of knowledge?
And in line with your
That's
sermon
crazy.
yesterday, we always want more.
Yeah.
I think I would want more after 5 million. I think after a conversation with God, I wouldn't.
I think
So-
I might have a different view on money. Like
Oh,
after
you-
5 minutes
I
with
think
God,
you would.
I think I will also be like,
On
money's
life.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this is stuff that's attainable spiritually with the Holy Spirit. But there's something about going again. We always say we're
Sure.
believers. You go to being a knower. You've talked to God.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh.
This has come up so many times lately, but I've been looking into the near-death experiences a ton lately, and the stories of the near-death experiences and what they experience when they come back, they are so different.
Change forever.
They walk through life as very different creatures because they know now what awaits them on the other side. So
Yeah.
they come back, and I'm like, and that's probably still just a glimpse versus God's presence sitting in front of you.
5 minutes.
So the shift would be so drastic, I bet. I don't even know what I would ask.
I would actually
I don't know
ask
what
God to
question I
tell me
have.
to ask.
5
I would
million
literally
is-
say, like, God, what should I be at? I don't know enough.
I was just
need
going to
you
say,
to instruct me on what
I
I
would
should be
say,
asking.
what is it that I need to know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't, when what's funny, he's going to be like, I gave you a whole book of that. And I'll be like, come on, give me something. Because I would
throws a
imagine.
Bible at you.
Yeah, you're like, oh, wow.
All right, we have 30 seconds left, God. So, let's do a Spitfire round.
Yeah. Would you rather-
JFK.
Oh.
Oh,
It's like,
dude.
let's go through all the different little things.
Were there dinosaurs? I want to see a dinosaur right now.
How do
Yeah.
the dinosaurs fit in
Gosh.
the timeline?
You have to pick
I feel
5
like
minutes.
5 million is too small. Like if you were gonna to someone.
Oh no, this is fun. what's the number that you go with money versus time with God?
Well, we're saying this as people who believe in God and have faith in Him. I think to ask anyone,
Okay.
I'd be like to an atheist, hey, would you want to actually find out that there's a true God, have 5-minute conversation with Him, or 5 million? They'd be like,
True
5
God.
million? Like, what about 500?
I don't know.
You
I think an atheist is probably more
Actually, they'd probably be more inclined
because
to
they're
talk
like,
to
well,
him.
shoot, if you're going to prove it to me.
Right.
Because that's all they want is proof.
No matter what number it is, they say
Yeah.
God.
I just think
I
5
they say
million is
God.
kind
At
of
that point, yeah.
interesting.
I don't
It's
think
like
there's
it's a given.
I don't think there's a number for me. I honestly
I don't
think
either.
a lot of times with money, you feel like, and this is just me, money, if I were to boil it down, feels like peace. And it's not. But that's the mindset. Like, everything's taken care of.
Sure.
Talking
It's what
to
the
God
money represents for sure.
is actually peace.
Yeah.
You're actually like, I'm
True.
or,
good.
Or terror.
Right.
But I like that, like, it's like 5 million, 50 million, 250 million, a billion, 5 billion, 5 trillion.
Well, that's what I'm
To
saying.
be the
ask
wealthiest person
If you
in
ask
the
Elon
world.
Musk, how much of your wealth would you give to have this conversation with God? I would be surprised if he didn't say, I'd give out all of it.
It's weird to think that the right move would be like,
Well, we would give our
I would
lives
live
for
in,
God.
yeah, that's a solid point. But I would live in poverty to get that 5 minutes.
Be amazing.
That's a weird realization when you kind of hit that and you go, I would live in poverty just to sit with God for 5 minutes, even though knowing full well I'm about to spend eternity with Him.
Yeah.
Like the blink of an eye, right? Vexation of spirit is here today, gone tomorrow. But there would be something where you would you're just beyond a different person. It's
Yeah.
just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
It's
'cause
so fun.
I just think about the peace we have right now in Jesus. Like literally be able to go to sleep at night is like it's from Jesus.
Yeah.
Like to amplify that to hard evidence where you're like, oh my gosh.
I really do wonder what you would do differently. Like,
I'd probably divorce
would I
my
have
wife.
any savings?
Oh.
For sure. Would you have any savings? Or were you just like,
I'd love somebody just take an opposite
Money's-
effect. I've talked to God. Now I'm getting a divorce. I'm not going to
I'm
work
abandoning
anymore.
my
I'm
children.
robbing people.
Yeah.
Doing
Leaving the
everything
church.
bad.
but like,
Oh, that's a weird response.
I wonder if you shift so drastically that you're like, oh, money has become so worthless. I gave it all away.
I'm not wearing clothes anymore.
You're just a
I no longer
lunatic.
care about vanity.
You're kind of, you're John the Baptist. You're just
Yeah,
wearing
yeah.
animal skins.
And everybody's like, dude, you just took ayahuasca.
Yeah, that was all. You smoked a little weed.
Not even that. You
settled
got
down.
second hand from sitting in the room with us. You asked where the phone charger was.
awesome.
Okay, that was fun. Did
That
we
was
all
awesome.
choose? We all chose the right one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a way
Well,
around
that's
it.
still questionable, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you rather fight?
All right, I like
last
this.
one.
Would you rather fight 100 chicken-sized zombies or 10 zombie-sized? It's like normal adult, it's not human size. 10 zombie-sized chickens. Just to be clear, you have no armor and no weapons. You got to fight them bare hands.
It was 10
100 chicken-sized zombies
100 chicken-sized
100 of them.
zombies.
and then 10 zombie-sized chickens.
First of all, chickens are vicious. Let's just start with
I
that.
think you lose either way. I don't see it. I don't see a win. A chicken, because an ostrich kills people. Like,
But these
easily.
are chicken-sized zombies.
I know. This is
Well,
what I'm
one
saying.
bite
But
you and
it's
you
a
become a zombie.
zombie-sized chicken.
What? And so you got one.
Oh,
bite.
you have no leg armor.
You have no
one-
armor. I don't. This is why I'm saying I think you lose every time.
You'll get swarmed.
At some point, you're getting scratched.
First of all, yeah, zombies
Bit.
don't have that fear concept, so they just like bees.
There's
You know
no,
what I mean?
there's no inhibitions.
Right. They just all
They'll,
attack at the same time.
Hang on. I am wondering though.
If they're slow walkers, even though they're small, maybe they're not
So
fast.
slow walkers, I can never find a weapon. Is that what we're talking about
Yes,
here?
no weapons.
You wrote this. Who, to be clear, you have no armor and no weapons.
We got this. I got this
Bare
from Reddit.
hands.
Can I get on a building?
You can do anything you want.
Yeah.
So-
can I
As
get
long
on
as
a
you have a weapon.
stool?
We didn't
I mean,
put you in
get
an
on a
arena.
stool.
I didn't put
They're
you in an
chicken
arena.
size.
So never get I can never find a weapon.
Wait,
It's
just
always
get in a
bare hands.
car and run them over.
That's what I
No,
was
that's a
thinking.
weapon.
They're chicken
That's a weapon.
sized.
But that's a
weapon.
weapon.
just get a
vehicle.
That's a weapon.
Because I'm like, you could probably get away. I think I'm still.
No,
I think
I'll
I'm
do the
taking the
hundreds.
zombies because I feel like I have a better chance than the chickens.
If they're are they
Dude,
World
giant.
War Z zombies or are they Walking Dead zombies?
Even still,
Yeah, it doesn't
no,
matter.
chicken
Walking
size.
Dead zombies are slow,
They're
Yeah.
chicken
and you
size.
could
I-
smash their head.
I
yeah,
just
but
think
100. I think either way, I think I'm picking the small zombies.
Yeah, I just think
way.
a 6-foot chicken,
It's terrible.
10 of them,
You're dead.
You're eaten.
I think
And
that's
you're
what I'm saying.
you're
And
getting
they're
packed to
fighting
death.
chickens.
Because there's no escape as far as like I was
faster
just
than-
thinking
they're gonna be
just
faster than
because
you.
I saw this lake,
Oh my
so I'm like
gosh.
any 100 of the little guys
Just drown.
I'm jumping in the water and just swimming, get as many of them out as because then as they pop out of the water, I can smash a few of them, and then I would
You
just
think
keep
they're gonna
doing
float?
it. I think some of them would get through because they'd climb on top of each other like ants.
Oh,
Maybe I don't
yeah.
know. I just think I'm picking chickens every.
well,
or
if
the
it's
small
zombie though,
zombies
like
every time.
if it doesn't die, it's just going to come up on the other side.
Yeah, and it's probably
Yeah.
slower.
I think World
And then
War
you just
Z,
boot it.
One
Do you think
small one I crush.
The World War Z zombies, you're probably faster than that still because you're just a gate. Your gate is
Yeah,
bigger.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
You'd have to run though.
World
You'd
War
have to
Z
run to get
zombies-
them somehow funneling down into one at a time.
You have to bottleneck it. You have to
Yes.
300.
The World War
like
Z
the-
zombies
exactly
were
yeah.
the most,
Yeah.
some of the most terrifying zombies
Yes.
in movies.
Well
Yes.
done. Those
Yeah.
were well done.
Yeah.
But the giant chicken is
That's scary.
That's a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That that
terrifying.
I would just,
claw,
I
its
would,
talons.
what's the opposite, I would just crawl into a really small space.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Just far enough so it couldn't.
I don't think you
They
could.
just
I don't
peck the back
I
of
don't
your
think you
shin,
could.
your
I don't
calves.
think you're faster than a 6-foot chicken.
Yeah, I don't think you
I
can
don't either.
I
outrun
don't think you can outrun it.
Nope. I don't think I can outrun
They
a
are
chicken.
little
in its
dinosaurs.
normal size now.
They're
Yeah.
little
I'm in
dinosaurs.
trouble.
You basically just asked, will we
By
fight?
the way, they can get air.
Velociraptors.
They
Yeah,
get
that's
air
what
too,
I'm
right?
saying,
So
like-
now all of a sudden they're attacking from above.
I was just thinking, like, at least with the small zombies, I'm like, maybe I can like scuttle up something, and I'm like, not with a chicken, not with a giant chicken.
Oh no,
They're
It
gonna
can
get
leap
some
buildings.
flight. Oh yeah, no, they're insane.
Proportionally.
You're in serious trouble. You know what I would do? In that 5 minutes with God, I would ask him which one I should take and how to kill him.
He'd be like, "You're gonna be with me very soon." Doesn't matter.
Whatever you pick, dude,
Either way.
you're not making it.
It'll be
I'll be
with
like, okay, cool.
If I could, like, train one of those chickens,
Oh, I like.
I think I'd have an advantage against the other.
What if you
chickens.
could train 10 of the zombies?
Those
How
chickens?
are you
they're gonna
training
peck
a
at 'em.
chicken in the middle of a chicken fight?
You just whisper.
The other ones are pecking you in the head during this time.
Stop. You're fine. That's
And then
it.
it's like, yeah, it's like now you're my chicken.
Oh, wait a minute. I just realized. Have you ever seen how you draw the line in how they literally pass out and go catatonic with the chickens? Have you ever seen
I
that?
haven't been around chickens enough.
So there's ways that you take a chicken. It's actually the weirdest thing you've ever seen. My mother-in-law did a different version of it where they go catatonic, and I mean like head limp, and it's crazy. Maybe if I knew that ahead of time well enough,
That's
I
a
might
big
pick
line.
the chickens.
It's like
Draw
petting
a
the
big
belly of
line.
like an alligator.
Do
Is
it.
that kind of that?
Yeah,
kind of-
similar. And I mean, they literally are out. So
Oh, it's like the
might.
person with sharks. They'd
might.
put them up on their nose.
yes,
And then
also
they're
the
like,
sharks. Yeah,
"Sweep."
if you flip them, which
Yeah.
is funny because I've always thought that was funny because I'm like, that's a docile shark you're showing me that on. The one attacking me, I'm like, no, flip over.
Yeah.
Flip over. It's just gone.
Yeah.
All right, well,
All right, it's good.
it's all terrifying, but I like it.
We solved nothing.
We-
Thanks for joining us on You Won't Hate It. I'm Josh.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Floyd.
I'm Joe.